In the grim juvenile detention center, surrounded by a raging sea, the tension is already thick enough to cut with a knife. Whispers snake through the halls as the inmates gossip about the latest drama. Amid the laughter, the thugs mention that some loser from up north decided to pick a fight with the boss's right-hand man. With a sadistic smirk, one of the goons bets it'll be a miracle if the new guy only breaks a few ribs. Since life is cheap in a place like this, the order rings out in the night: take the victim down, no mercy. Hyped for the carnage, the prisoners scream for a good show in the makeshift arena. But the gang leader lets out a confused sigh, noticing something is very, very wrong. Covered in blood, our MC is held by the head, muttering that this is just the beginning. Suddenly, a blood-soaked fist cuts through the air with insane force. Pinning the big guy's face to the ground, the kid ignores the crowd's screams for him to stop. Brutal punches keep raining down mercilessly, shattering his opponent's face. Spitting blood is the only thing the defeated man can do under the relentless beating. With no breaks, our boy demolishes his rival one more time, showing everyone who's really in charge. At that point, the guards and other inmates have to rush the court to try and stop the slaughter. After leaving a trail of fallen bodies in the yard, silence finally takes over this hellhole. In shock, the prisoners can't believe the new guy actually won the fight. Seeing the brutal state of the fallen fighter, the entire audience feels a chill down their spine. Trembling with fear, the guys whisper that the winner doesn't even seem human. With another devastating blow, the kid proves he's not here to play games. Blood splatters everywhere as his reputation becomes legendary, like something that crawled straight out of the underworld. Staring everyone down with pure hatred, he earns the nickname, Mad Dog. Alone in the middle of the court, our boy takes a deep breath after the bloody victory. As he reflects on his new title, Demon from Hell, he just stares at the floor. But in his head, he knows everyone got the situation completely wrong. Away from the spotlight, the prisoner remembers the truly dark place he came from. A heavy gate slides open, revealing that his past was way worse than any prison. Indeed, a purely miserable life is locked away with the metallic slam of the doors. In another scene, a young nerd hurries through the hallways. In a cold sweat of desperation, the Four Eyes laments his luck, saying everything was fine until he ran into a certain aggressor. Hiding in a small, dark room, he prays with all his might that the maniac doesn't find him. Suddenly, a macabre smile flashes in the darkness, announcing the nightmare has begun. Cowering on the floor, the kid with glasses realizes his ruin began the moment he became a target. Trembling in panic, the victim hears the bully's disgusting voice calling his name in a sing-song tone. Down the hall, the psycho walks calmly, wondering aloud if his prey is hidden well. Just a sliver of light illuminates the storage room door, where the hostage holds his breath. Mentally begging for the monster to go away, the poor kid is close to tears from the tension. Drops of sweat rolling down his forehead betray the absolute terror of the scene. With the door suddenly thrown open, the big guy cheerfully announces that he's found his target. In a total state of shock, the nerd realizes his only option now is to run far, far away. Trapped by the aggressor's sadistic smile, the kid hears that there are many things in the world. Through tears, he agrees that some situations are much scarier than hell itself. Without warning, the brute throws a vicious knee straight to the Four Eyes' gut. In a tone of pure mockery, the coward recommends the young man close his eyes, so he won't feel the pain of the impact. Making a sign with his fingers, the scumbag promises that this time, he'll finish it all in one blow. By the strands of his hair, the monster pulls the victim up, setting the stage for the final torture. It's clear that true terror is a human who takes immense pleasure in the suffering of others while humiliating their prey. Complaining that the nerd broke too quickly, the psycho says he got a defective product and threatens to set the whole shop on fire. The bloodstains on the shiny floor make it obvious there's no escape, no salvation for the weak. On the streets, people hold furious protests against the violent crimes committed by minors across the country. Inside the courtroom, the judge hands down light sentences, further enraging the population that cries out for severe justice. To calm things down, the government revises the laws, increasing the maximum penalty, but only sending the scum to detention centers. Unfortunately, these superficial measures only cause juvenile crime to skyrocket out of control, turning the lives of the innocent into a never-ending nightmare. Gangs treat bullying as a simple pastime. Near the edge of a building, a girl sadly reflects that no one can stand up to the strongest. Unable to find a path to survival, despair takes its tragic toll on the asphalt below. Back at the school gates, a climate of oppression dominates the students' afternoon. Surrounded by three thugs, a smaller boy shrinks in terror against a dirty alley wall. After a sharp slap to the face, the boy hears the leader tell him to call his big bro for help. Full of mockery, the group comments that the victim's relative is locked up for taking a life and pretends to be scared to death. The delinquent warns that he's going to charge a hefty fee as a tax. Screaming, the boy desperately begs them not to speak ill of his imprisoned brother. In response, a devastating punch smashes the kid's face, sending blood flying. Kicking the poor guy on the ground, the gang yells that he's in urgent need of some re-education. Oblivious to this chaos, the nerd with glasses walks down the street, carrying the weight of another horrible day on his shoulders. In a sigh of deep relief, he thanks the heavens for surviving another 24 hours of torture at school. Just ahead, a beat-up stray dog inside a box catches the student's attention. Crouching down to pet the mutt, the young man smiles faintly, saying the two of them are literally cut from the same cloth. Suddenly, the violent sounds of a beatdown shatter the silence, making the four eyes freeze in place. Peeking fearfully over the wall, he sees someone getting beaten badly and thinks for a second about intervening. Mercilessly stomped on, the little boy reaches out, begging for any crumb of help. In a cold sweat of terror, our coward realizes the aggressor's uniforms belong to the damn neighboring school. Noticing the unwanted observer, the delinquents flash a dark smile, greeting the upperclassman. With his arm wrapped around the nerd's neck, the group's leader cynically asks how things are going. Stuttering from the shaking, the hostage can't form a single sentence as he stares at the injured boy on the ground. In a gesture of pure submission, he hands over his own wallet as the thug demands cash for a snack. Disgusted by the wallet's meager contents, the thug scoffs that even a dog would have more money. Tightening his grip, the bully demands that his breakfast be ready the next day. Completely frozen, our MC just watches the gang leave, swallowing his pride. Lying on the dirty asphalt, the kid lets out a heavy groan of pure pain. In a lapse of courage, he begs in a low voice for them to let the little injured boy go. Crushing the small boy with his foot, the aggressor justifies his cowardice by saying the kid's brother took a life, so the blame is collective. With a violent tug on his collar, the leader warns our boy not to get a big head just because he's an upperclassman. Sporting a psychopathic smile, the delinquent challenges the nerd to repeat that in front of the school's top dog. In total panic, our boy remembers that this so-called top dog is the demon responsible for making his life a living hell. Trapped in the enemy's clutches, the memory shows that the rich sadist chose him as his main toy to pass the time. Surrounded by laughing students, the public humiliation destroys any last shred of the student's sanity. In the dark memories, the villain tortures someone else mercilessly, making it clear that the only destination there is a final one. Yelling, the goon tells the trash to get lost and threatens an even worse spectacle for the next day. Consumed by guilt, the young man turns his face away and apologizes in his mind for not being able to help the victim. Suddenly, the little one's head is smashed into the ground, proving the protagonist's complete lack of strength. To the sound of laughter, the gang walks away, telling the boy to curse his own fate. Bent over in pain, the nerd walks on, mentally cursing himself for being so pathetic. In tears, he repeats his plea for forgiveness to the empty street. On the dark stairs, loneliness completely swallows the kid, reminding him that he has no one. After a few minutes, he finally arrives home. Inside the filthy apartment, the mood is already heavy with the slovenly figure sprawled out in the living room. With a bottle in his hand, the pot-bellied man brutally demands his steps in hand over the day's wages. Trying to intervene, the mother says the money is for the month's expenses and for her son. With a furious slam on the table, the stepfather tells the woman to shut her mouth right now. At that moment, our boy opens the door. Faced with the threat of making his mother sell her body, the young man quietly asks the man to stop. In the blink of an eye, a sharp slap cracks across his face. With his hand on his stinging cheek, he cries on the inside, blaming his own weakness for the situation. Screaming, the monster demands respect, calling the woman a filthy, useless animal. Completely in shock, the boy absorbs every insult like a knife to the chest. Dark memories flood his mind of the bullies telling him to clean dog mess off their shoes. Submissive to the bone, the past shows the extreme humiliation of licking the upperclassman's boot and still having to say thank you. Demonic shadows surround the family, merging the torments of home with the demons of school. With his eyes bloodshot with rage, his limit is finally broken in defense of his own mother. With the bottle raised to attack the woman, the aggressor doesn't even notice the fury approaching. Out of the corner of his eye, the brute notices the kid's desperate move. In a blind rush, our MC tries to attack but gets a bottle to the head. Consumed by rage, the man threatens to crush them both right there on the floor. With a knife pulled from nowhere, our MC decides he's had enough of taking it silently. Firm with the blade in his hands, he prepares for the worst-case scenario. Without backing down, the old man clenches his fist, ready to repay the audacity. With the weapon aimed at the target, the boy demands the violence end that second. Desperate, the mother grabs her son's arm, pleading for calm and saying everything is okay. Not listening, the decision to protect his only family is carved on the student's forehead. Taking it all as a joke, the pot-bellied monster laughs out loud, finding the scene hilarious as he removes his belt. Full of mockery, the stepfather throws it in the boy's face, how he's treated like a dog on the street and at home. Like a shield, the woman gets in the middle of the mess, begging the man to stop. Completely out of control, the old man challenges the useless kid to try his luck with the blade. Winding up his arm, a colossal punch promises to teach a definitive lesson. With no way out, the boy closes his eyes, waiting for the inevitable impact of the blow. In a pure survival instinct, the knife lunges forward, tearing through the air with everything it's got. Blood splatters instantly, staining the scene a terrifying, vivid red. After dropping the metal to the floor, our MC backs away in absolute shock. With his eyes wide with horror, he can't process the weight of what he's just done. The heavy reality sinks in when he realizes his own mother jumped in front and took the attack. Wounded in the shoulder, the aggressor roars in pain, surprised that the worm actually had the guts to attack. In tears, the student stammers desperately, saying he only wanted to protect his mother. Blinded by rage from the bleeding cut, the brute charges like a mad bull at the coward. With a brutal kick to the stomach, the man tells the boy to get up and take it like a man. But the woman tries to stop him. Clinging to the monster's leg, the bleeding mother begs for forgiveness, swearing her son didn't mean it. With a psycho's face, the old man coldly demands the woman let go of his pants. In a cowardly and disgusting blow, the heavy fist smashes the head of the victim on the floor. With a front row seat, the boy watches the scene, screaming his mother's name in total despair. For the massacre to finally end. For a second, the aggressor stops and looks with pure disgust at the trash crying at his feet. Focusing on a new target, the monster announces he's going to fix the lack of discipline right then and there. Too scared, the Four Eyes still mutters false promises that he'll protect his family. Lying on the floor, the wounded mother begs her son not to worry and to just run. With her last bit of strength, she screams at the top of her lungs, ordering the boy's immediate escape. With his back to the danger, the kid bolts out the door, driven by pure survival instinct. Tears wash over his sweaty face, full of remorse and apologies. Hurling heavy insults through the open door, the stepfather promises a cruel revenge. To vent his fury from the escape, the monster goes back to mercilessly kicking the defenseless woman. Swallowed by the darkness of the night, our boy can only obey her last order and run without stopping. Under a heavy downpour, our boy wanders aimlessly through the empty streets. His face soaked in tears, the kid blames himself for running away without saving his own mother. From the top of an overpass, the nerd begs for forgiveness for his cowardly ways while staring into the fog. Just then, two girls walk by talking and feels sorry for the student's pitiful state. Suddenly, one of the girls extends an object to cover our boy's head. Full of shame, the young man quietly begs them not to look at him. Ignoring his request, the girl kindly offers to lend him her umbrella. With a warm smile, she tells the kid he needs to get home soon before he catches a cold. Gripping the handle tightly, our MC is completely speechless at such random kindness. Soon, the girls run off together into the storm. Memories of his older brother's advice about always helping those in need flood the student's mind. As he thinks about going home, the harsh reality hits hard. He no longer has a safe place to go. Suddenly, a faint bark draws his attention to the stray dog in the middle of the asphalt. Crouching near the animal, the boy recognizes the injured mutt from that afternoon. Saddened by his own misery, he pets the animal, lamenting that he has no food or shelter to offer. Happy as can be, the little dog starts walking, inviting the kid to join the adventure. Without many options, our boy follows the little dog through the city's cold alleys. Reaching a tunnel near a staircase, the duo finally finds a perfect shelter from the storm. Relieved by the cover, the nerd thanks the animal for guiding the way in the dark. Dropping the umbrella on the ground, the bitter realization that this hole will be his new home takes over. Huddled in a dirty corner, the student decides he'll spend the night right there. In the morning, the sun's rays announce a new day, lighting up the entrance of the abandoned subway. All of a sudden, the mutt starts barking fiercely, trying to protect its new owner from a nearby threat. Still sleepy, the kid slowly opens his eyes and comes face to face with his worst nightmare. Right in front of him, the psychopathic bully from school appears, surrounded by a group of vapid girls. With a macabre smile, the demon asks in a tone of pure mockery what the trash is doing lying on the street. Full of disgust, the girls laugh and doubt that the dirty nerd is the rich kid's best friend. To show off, the aggressor fakes a twisted friendship and confirms the lie in front of everyone. Soon, the sadist blurts out that without this pathetic toy, his life would be deathly boring. Even though he's small, the brave little dog growls loudly, baring its teeth to scare away the malicious group. Annoyed by the nerd's silence, the bully demands an immediate answer to his taunt. Slapping the poor guy's cheek humiliatingly, the villain tells him to imitate a dog right there. Completely out of patience, the sadist threatens a much worse punishment if he's not obeyed instantly. Pulling the student's hair with extreme brutality, the order to bark is yelled with fury. Without a second thought, the hero puppy jumps and sinks its teeth into the preppy punk's arm. Screaming, the coward curses the street animal for the surprise attack, trying to break free from the bite. Completely in shock, our MC can't believe the little creature risked its life to save him. Consumed by a murderous rage, the maniac announces that the mutt just signed its own final notice. Unleashing his monstrous pit bull, The villain orders his pet monster to tear the opponent to shreds. Immediately, the enormous beast lunges at the little hero, ignoring any chance of defense. Sharp teeth rip through the little dog's flesh without mercy as blood splatters across the stone ground. With a sick smile, the psycho enjoys watching the carnage unfold on the asphalt. Desperate, the Four Eyes clasps his hands, crying rivers of tears and begging for the slaughter to end. Grabbing the boy's neck, the monster forces the poor guy to watch every bloody detail from a front row seat. Nearby, the pit bull continues to shake its victim, proving the rule that the weakest lose everything. Pleading for the little animal's life, the kid screams that the canine hero is going to end up a goner that way. Full of disdain, the sadist makes clicking noises with his mouth, feeding off the student's absolute terror. Forcing the nerd's neck, the cruel order is not to look away, not even for a single second, from the massacred. Before the victim's wide eyes, the bully's final warning echoes, forbidding any kind of challenge in the future. With a dark thud, the mutt's last bit of strength is completely extinguished on the cold ground. Completely broken inside, our MC lets out a silent roar of pure agony, feeling his soul shatter. Thrown onto the asphalt like trash, the aggressor laughs at the scene, calling sadness a disgusting thing. Stomping on the student's sanity, the new bizarre order is for him to devour the animal's remains to earn forgiveness. With a merciless countdown, the psycho threatens fatal consequences if his prey refuses the disgusting task. Bitter memories from childhood show that the kid thought he had found a temporary cure for loneliness. Facing the bloody scene, his mind short-circuits, trying to understand the reason for so much suffering. Inspired by the little animal's courage, the nerd had felt a flicker of hope that he too could protect someone important. But reality destroys everything, once again proving the dirty, lonely taste of inevitable failure. In tears, the question of why he never gets a single true hug corrodes his fragile heart. Clenched fists tighten, showing that a dark fury is finally beginning to awaken within him. Standing up in absolute silence, the sudden change in posture makes the bully ask what the trash's idea is. With a raised eyebrow, the psycho doubts the courage of that coward, questioning a possible attack. With a violent shove, the sadist scoffs that juvenile detention will be the nerd's new home. In a purely diabolical tone, the monster speaks wonders of juvie, promising the loser won't last a day in there. Leaving no escape routes, the rich kid even forbids taking the easy way out, ensuring that hell will continue on Earth. As if that weren't enough, the villain starts spouting disgusting nonsense about the miserable fate of our MC's mother. Harsh words are fired into the defenseless student's ear, promising to use the woman's body as cheap entertainment for the gang. Consumed by extreme hatred, our MC listens to all the atrocities about his own family, his eyes glazed over. In the past, the mere sound of that bully's name caused tremors of deep panic down the boy's spine. But now the coward's mask falls away, giving way to a look of pure, relentless killer instinct. Trembling from head to toe, the nerd finds his voice, announcing that this time, the emotion running through his veins is pure rage. Blinded by anger, the basic rule of never insulting someone's mother is thrown in the demon's face with all his might. With a devastating punch straight to the rich kid's smug nose, the payback for all the trauma is finally delivered with interest. Thrown to the ground by the surprise impact, the preppy punk can't even understand where all that sudden strength came from. By the aggressor's collar, our boy throws himself on top, ready to turn the sadist's playground into a real bloodbath. In a fit of rage, our boy sinks his teeth in and tears a chunk out of the bully's face. Covered in blood, the kid lets out a deafening scream of pure agony and hatred. But the memories of his mother, tied up and begging for help, still haunt his mind. On that fateful day, the gang destroyed his family, while the justice system looked the other way. A short time later, the grand building of the juvenile court becomes the stage for his sentence. With the firm bang of the gavel, the judge establishes order in the court. Without any mercy, the magistrate declares the kid's conviction for aggravated assault. Arrested and handcuffed, our MC listens to the sentence while the real culprits walk away scot-free. Completely bought off, the system ignored all the evidence of the bullying and torture he suffered. Meanwhile, his father also ends up in prison, and his mother is unable to help due to the rich family's setup. Alone in the interrogation room, our boy realizes that the law only serves the strong. Quickly, the 5-year sentence in the juvenile reformatory drops like a bomb on his head. During the escort to the paddy wagon, the kid reflects that on that day, he just traded one hell for another. Through the gap, the gigantic metal gates already offer a grim welcome. Inside the van, our boy's gaze already carries the weight of someone who knows the nightmare is just beginning. Immediately, the heavy door locks, sealing the new guy's fate. After a violent shove from the guard, our MC is told to get a move on, no dawdling. Outraged by the injustice, our boy seethes with anger for being locked up while the sadist is laughing outside. The moment they arrive at the inspection room, a tense atmosphere dominates the dirty corridor. Screaming, the correctional officers order all inmates to strip and stand up. Along with several tattooed thugs, our boy takes off his shirt in total submission. Sitting at the table, the inspector looks at his clipboard and demands the newcomer's name. Nerves make the kid slow to respond, and he gets yelled at to speak up. With a cynical smile, the officer recognizes our MC as the psycho who tore off the rich kid's nose. Handing over the ID tag, the guard announces that number 8725 will be his new identity. With no right to reply, our boy accepts the piece of paper, searing the digits into his memory. Soon after, the line of naked prisoners marches through the dark corridors of the prison. Due to the strict orders, our boy raises his arms and turns his back for the search. In an authoritative voice, the agent tells him to take off his underwear for the final inspection. Out of nowhere, a jet of ice cold water hits the kid's back in an extremely humiliating shower. Under the cold and extreme shame, our boy feels any last drop of dignity go down the drain. In the flash of the mugshot, the last remnant of pride is completely shattered. Now in uniform, the rookies form a perfect line in the main yard, awaiting orders. Suddenly, a shout demands everyone stand for the entrance of the reformatory's director. With a wide smile, the big boss tells the guys to relax, saying the place isn't that strict. In a friendly speech, the man in a tie announces that the inmates can count on him and highlights the separation between genders. Deceived by the false sympathy, our MC even thinks the environment might be less terrible than he imagined. Flashing a disguised, perverse smile, the director guarantees that everyone will receive a very special education inside. To shatter the illusion, the guard calls the new guy harshly, telling him to get moving. Through the open yards, the veterans stare at the fresh meat with looks of pure sadism. Full of mockery, the bigger thugs already pick the runt as their next plaything. In front of one of the cells, the agent laughs, announcing he's found the perfect room for the new punching bag. Out of pure malice, the jailer says he's prepared a more than special housing unit for our boy. Face to face with the iron door, the tense atmosphere suddenly makes the air heavy. Unlocking the cell with a diabolical smile, the only instruction given is for our boy to enjoy his stay. Stepping into the dark room, our MC comes face to face with a circle of terrifying thugs. Lying casually on the bed, the cell leader flashes a predator's smile and asks for the new guy's name. Trying to stay calm, our boy barely begins to say his last name. Suddenly, a backhand slap cracks across the kid's face, sending spit flying everywhere. Screaming, the boss tells him to shut his mouth and demands to hear only his inmate number. Laughing, the aggressor calls the hit a simple initiation ritual to break the ice. With a sharp kick, the boy's plastic basin flies, scattering his belongings on the floor. Pulling the new guy's hair without mercy, the bully forces his face against the dirty floor. The full of attitude, the thug announces that from now on, our MC is his dog and his obedience must be blind. Gritting his teeth hard, our boy decides he needs to swallow his pride and endure this hell once more. Noticing the contained anger, the leader's partner scoffs, asking if the kid has a problem with the rules. To calm things down, the boss lets his prey go, saying the message has been delivered for now. Sitting back on the bed, the thug begins to explain how the prison really works. Sketching out the invisible hierarchy, it's clear that our boy is at the bottom of the barrel, classified as disposable trash. Without wasting time, the final order is for the newcomer to hand over all his supplies for the leader to distribute. Holding the empty basin, the sinister advice warns to never cross the prison's elite. Whispering in the new guy's ear, the criminal guarantees that rebellion costs a very high price in there. Getting up from the bed, the top dog says he needs to take a leak and tells the kid to serve as a step stool. Completely lost, our boy doesn't understand the humiliation until the leader repeats the sentence angrily. Pointing to the sink, the aggressor explains that the toilet has a flush limit, so they use the faucet instead. Stomping hard on the kid's back, the villain claims that this is a job of honor for the scum. With a smile of relief, the thug begins to relieve his bladder right over our bowed MC. Smelling the unbearable stench, our boy can't take it and ends up throwing up on the floor, making the boss lose his balance. Blind with rage from the stumble, the delinquent grabs a piece of wood and swears to end the new guy. Seeing the madness escalate quickly, our boy realizes the monsters in this prison are 1,000 times worse than the bully from school. Cowering on the floor, waiting for the blow, he mentally apologizes to his mother, thinking the end has come. Suddenly, a foot steps in front of the attack, blocking the way and telling the boss to wait. Surprised by the interruption, the leader asks who the psycho is that wants to protect the new trash. Flashing a calm smile, the inmate with glasses asks the boss to let it slide, saying he'll teach the boy a lesson. Annoyed by the meddling, the bully points the weapon and warns that this problem is nobody else's business. Calmly, the guy with glasses intervenes, asking the cell leader for patience. Lowering the wooden weapon, the boss agrees there must be a reason the director sent the new guy there. With a psycho's face, the big guy grumbles that he doesn't care about punishing the trash, even if he doesn't make it. Turning his back, the big shot agrees with his ally's argument and gives up on the beating. Furious, he still curses the kid, calling him a weakling for being so bold. Putting the scolding aside, the top dog passes the responsibility for the new guy to this. Tamia, Crouching next to our boy, the guy with glasses hands him a cloth to clean up the mess. Confused, our boy stares at the upperclassman, trying to understand the reason for so much free help. With a finger to his lips, the Four Eyes whispers that the kid needs to endure everything if he wants to get out alive. Desperate, the nerd cries softly, saying he can't take it, but his ally promises to help him out. Soon, the veteran begins to explain the tough routine and super strict schedules of the reformatory. Pointing to the corridors, he details the cleaning areas and how the tasks are divided among the team. During free time, the guards watch the yard rigidly while the inmates move around. Through the protective fences, you can see guys running and training freely. Watching the hurried movement, the Four Eyes comments that the violent fights are about to start in the yard. Pulling the new guy by the arm, the veteran tells him to pay close attention to what's about to happen. In our MC's mind, the brutal division of territories into north, south, east, and west becomes crystal clear. Smiling slyly, the ally reveals the true monstrous face of that prison system. There, in the center of the court, a tattooed psycho screams at the top of his lungs, threatening to crush his opponent. Staring at the big guy, the famous fighter from the first day lets out a sigh of pure mockery. Full of attitude, the sinister fighter with dark hair calls his rival to a brawl, if he has the guts. Charging like a blind bull, the brute immediately takes a clean cross right to the face. Quickly, the arena turns into absolute chaos, with blood and sweat flying everywhere. At the fences, the inmates scream excitedly, betting on the total destruction of the fighters. Completely paralyzed, our boy can't believe the level of unbridled violence. Terrified by the slaughter, he questions why the guards do absolutely nothing to break it up. Far from the dust, the officers just smoke calmly, ignoring the carnage unfolding. Calmly, the veteran explains that the reformatory facade is just an illusion for the authorities. Detailing the hierarchy, he says everything is divided into districts, and survival depends entirely on strength. On the court, brutal punches continue to cave in the loser's face without the slightest mercy. Still confused, our boy asks what all that system madness means in practice. Without beating around the bush, the ally gives it to him straight, saying that brute force is the only law that sets the rules in there. Dodging the heavy blows, the dark fighter proves in practice how the top of the food chain works. As if it were completely normal, the Four Eyes states that the guards turn a blind eye as long as it doesn't turn into a homicide. With a devastating final blow, the brute is thrown to the ground like a bag of trash. Pointing to the bloody winner, the veteran confirms that things are settled exactly that way. Clinging to the chain link fence, the inmates scream, demanding the champion finish the job quickly because of the bets. Without giving any room to breathe, the inhuman massacre crushes any hope the opponent had. With a flying kick to the ribs, the big guy is humiliated in front of the entire prison. Spitting out teeth and blood, the loser reflects in terror if that guy is a real demon. Agonizing roars echo across the court as the brutal beating punishes the defeated fighter. With his eyes gleaming with a killer instinct, the winner ends the macabre show by landing a perfect uppercut. Standing under the late afternoon sun, the unbeatable kid takes a deep breath, surrounded by fallen bodies. Immediately, the entire crowd goes wild, screaming the name of the idolized monster. Jaw dropped, our boy trembles, impressed by such a display of absolute power. Watching the champion from a distance, the nerd whispers that there's no way that guy is a normal human. Lying in the cold, dark cell, our MC wishes he had at least 1/10 of all that strength. Then, the sad reality hits hard, reminding him that dreaming of strength is completely impossible for him. Soon, the sun rises, bringing the start of another tense and treacherous day in hell. During the morning meal, the Four Eyes questions how the champion gets into so many fights and comes out without any punishment. Eating calmly, the ally reveals the sacred rule about settling beefs through legalized brawls. Curious, the boy stutters, asking if anyone has the right to challenge the strongest. With a pitying smile, the veteran warns that it's foolish to try your luck without the real skill to back up the punch. In a terrifying vision, the naked truth is that the top dogs love to destroy and break the weaker ones in half. Understanding the new guy's desperation, the partner confesses that scrubs like them only have two options in life. The first golden rule is to always keep your head down and swallow your pride in silence. Suddenly, a roar rips through the mess hall, telling everyone to circle up immediately. A gigantic and terrifying shadow covers the place, announcing the arrival of the feared boss of the North Wing. Desperate, the veteran tells our boy to get up immediately and never dare to annoy that giant brute. Walking like a true tank, the tattooed monster intimidates everyone just by stepping on the floor. Past his own goons, the giant fixes his terrifying gaze directly on our MC's table. Stopping right in front of the trembling trash, the boss asks in a deep voice if his name is Jen Amamori. With a cold sweat down his back, the nerd swallows hard and stammers, confirming his own identity. Smiling like an insane maniac, the big guy introduces himself as Retsu Kanemoto, the older brother of the rich kid without a nose. Feeling his world crumble, our boy's eyes widen, realizing he just dug his own grave. Getting his face close to the kids, the villain announces that he requested his transfer specifically to take care of his pet. Yelling to the entire mess hall, the leader decrees that the new guy is now his exclusive property, and woo to anyone who touches him. Without any warning, a monstrous punch sends our MC flying, breaking the table. Rushing to help, the alley lifts the injured boy, warning that the infirmary is the only safe place now. Serving his work punishment, our MC sweeps the giant bathroom, praying for the safety of the isolated place. Relieved by the silence, he starts to believe that at least here, he's protected from the psycho's claws. Suddenly, the echo of heavy footsteps breaks the tranquility, shattering the bathroom's false peace. From the humid shadows, a bald, muscular prisoner emerges, exuding pure evil and danger. Cornering the kid, the maniac licks his lips, commenting on how fresh and appetizing the new guy looks. With a dirty smile on his face, the creep tells the nerd not to be afraid, because they're just going to have a little fun. Desperate, the MC tries to defend himself from the bald guy with the broom handle and screams for help. Suddenly, the shower water starts gushing through the cold bathroom. Soaked and trembling with fear, the nerd realizes the creep loved this scenario. Licking his lips in disgust, the brute confesses that this situation is his favorite. Grabbing the boy from behind, the maniac whispers for his prey to relax as he struggles. With a violent tug on his shirt, the big guy announces that the game is about to begin. After taking a surprise headbutt to the face, the aggressor just laughs, calling his toy a rebel. Retaliating with a brutal punch, the coward thrills with excitement at the trash's resistance. Out of nowhere, a mysterious hand grabs the monster's arm, demanding he stop right now. Arriving to the rescue, the ally with glasses confronts the creep about the wing boss's absolute orders. Firm and calculating, the veteran reminds him that leaving a single scratch on the new guy will cause a headache for everyone. Backing off a bit, the pervert raises his hands, pretending it was just a harmless joke. Completely clueless, the big guy suggests that the hero of the day take the weakling's place in the fun. Facing the trash, the Four Eyes hears the threat that this protection won't last forever. Near our MC, the savior asks about his condition and hears the desperate plea for an escape route. Explaining the rules of hell, the partner reveals that the psycho boss himself ends up serving as a shield against other monsters. Hours later, our boy walks alone through the dark corridor, grumbling about the exhaustive cleaning work. Suddenly, violent sounds of a beatdown shatter the silence, revealing a terrifying scene just ahead. Overcome by a sudden courage, the kid screams at the top of his lungs, demanding the coward to stop right now. Trapped in the middle of the circle, the veteran with glasses is mercilessly stomped on for having interrupted the creep's fun. With ruthless kicks, the thugs justify the massacre as a punishment fully sanctioned by the guards. Busted by the prison doctor, the aggressors force a weak smile, calling the torture a simple lesson. Showing zero empathy, the doctor just tells the group to ease up so they don't needlessly fill up the infirmary. Obeying the woman's warning, the scum leaves laughing, leaving the dirty work behind. Next to his fallen ally, our MC almost cries seeing the pitiful state of his only friend in the reformatory. Facing the glass door of the medical wing, the environment gives off a bone, chilling coldness. Cleaning the wounds, the woman in the lab coat mechanically warns that the medicine will sting a lot on the cut skin. With a bandage in her hand, she advises the young man not to hold back his tears and to scream if the pain becomes unbearable. Trembling on the gurney with his teeth clenched, the patient insists he's handling it just fine. Turning her head slowly, the mysterious doctor fixes her eyes on the new guy, assessing the weakling's presence. With his gaze lowered, our boy receives the bitter compliment about his hidden and unexpected courage. Back in the cell, the kid is eaten up with worry about his ally's long absence from the wing. Flashes of the bald creep flash in his mind, making the student foresee an impending tragedy. In a fit of anxiety, the prisoner grabs the bars and roars, calling for any guard on duty. Sharp blows against the metal accompany the frantic pleas for help in the dark corridor. Woken up by the noise, his cellmates get angry and tell the trash to go to sleep right now. Stuttering nervously, our MC tries to warn them about the veteran's disappearance in the shower area. Tired of the nonsense, one of the thugs lands a strong punch, knocking the new guy straight to the cold floor. Fallen and breathless, the prey is told to stuff it and just wait. Returning to his mattress, the aggressor complains that his precious rest was ruined for nothing. With the arrival of a new day, a cold terror grips the Four Eyes as he witnesses a commotion. Right in the center of the yard, dozens of inmates form a curious barrier around something on the asphalt. Pushing and shoving, the kid shoves the brutes aside, clearing a path with the sheer force of desperation. At the front line, the worst sight is confirmed as the jailers carry his unconscious friend on a stretcher. In the corners, the thugs gossip, pointing at the misfortune of the poor guy who tried to play hero. Through malicious whispers, the crowd decrees that the guys really crossed the line with the torture. The question of the veteran's survival hangs in the air as the nerd catches the bald guy's victorious smile. Completely consumed by rage, the boy confronts the monster, questioning if he was the one behind the damage. In a diabolical tone, the pervert admits to the night's fun and announces he wants the trash's full attention now. Almost nose to nose, the monster repeats his filthy threat of using our MC as a bag for his fun. Ignoring the guard's presence, the creep grabs the boy and tries to drag him into a dark corner. On pure resistance, the hostage demands to be let go but is told that escape is impossible. In an explosion of blind rage, the kid demolishes the brute's face with a sequence of punches. Biting his rival's arm with animalistic instinct, the Four Eyes screams to be let go right now. Ending the rebellion, a backhand slap sends the prey flying far away. In disbelief at the pain in his face, the disgusting aggressor swears to make the defiant one pay dearly for the interruption. Suddenly, a violent cross from out of nowhere bursts the bald guy's ear, shattering his tough guy pose. Fallen and breathless, our MC immediately recognizes the monstrous silhouette of the prison's champion fighter. Exuding an aura of pure terror, the king of the wing tells the scum to get out of his way to the shower. Swallowing hard, the bathroom bully breaks into a cold sweat and curses his bad luck for running into the top of the food chain. Biting back his pride, the bald brute backs down and says he'll go find his fun elsewhere in the prison. With a sideways glance, the beast of a brawler demands that someone clean up the mess in the bathroom right now. Furious on the inside, the pervert curses the king of the wing in silence to avoid another beating. Transferring the blame for the humiliation, a malicious kick hits the janitor's back, telling him to get back to work. Turning his back on the fallen poor guy, the villain swears on his life that the score settling has only been postponed. Far from the fight, the shower water runs down the metal drain, cleaning the sins of that prison hell. With a broom in hand, the student tries to decipher the true identity of the guy who scares even the biggest thugs. The deep desire for brute strength takes over the boy's mind so he can protect the people he loves. Finishing his shower, the dark-haired fighter throws a towel over his shoulder and tells the trash to get out of there. This simple command awakens our weak hero, reminding him of the urgency to visit his destroyed alley. Arriving at the infirmary, depressing scene of his partner lying in a sea of bandages breaks the kid's heart. In a weak voice, the veteran takes the blame for the whole tragedy, lamenting being a useless burden in prison. Huddled on the edge of the gurney, anguish consumes the nerd, who desperately searches for a way to become strong. Forcing a friendly smile, the injured Four Eyes asks for a moment to close his eyes and rest from the medication. In a complete state of sadness, tears wash over the new guy's glasses as he embraces the pain and sinks into guilt. Lying on the bed, the injured Allie tells our boy to stop crying and says everything turned out okay. Consumed by guilt, the nerd questions why the guy went so far to defend a useless person. With difficulty breathing, the patient clutches his own shirt, feeling the weight of his wounds. Forcing a friendly smile, the Four Eyes confesses that the new guy reminds him a lot of his younger brother. Through an old photo, he shares that his youngest brother got great grades but was bullied heavily for being a coward. On a day of pure desperation, the boy ended up taking out the aggressor, and the veteran took the blame for the family. With a distant look, the Alley reveals the pain of missing him and wonders if his brother is living a normal life now. Suddenly it clicks, and our MC recognizes the face of the kid who is getting beaten up at the school gate. Noticing the shocked expression, the veteran asks if they know each other, and the boy awkwardly agrees. Full of hope, the Four Eyes breaks into a huge smile, wanting to know if his brother was okay. Without revealing the dark truth, the nerd lies straight to his face, claiming the boy seemed very happy with his friends. Totally relieved, the patient coughs up blood but thanks the heavens, saying his sacrifice wasn't in vain. Blind with rage, the kid threatens to report the disgusting bald guy to the guards at any cost. Immediately, his friend blocks his path and forbids him from reporting it, leaving the new guy confused. In a tense whisper, the veteran reveals that this reformatory hides a terrible secret under the surface. Without losing the terrifying atmosphere, the word secret echoes in the student's mind, making his blood run cold. To reveal the truth, the Alley pulls the boy close and begins to spill the beans. Out of nowhere, a thunderous metallic noise interrupts the conversation, unlocking the infirmary door. Firm footsteps announce that the bald leader and his goons have invaded the place as if they owned it. Full of mockery, the aggressor laughs in the patient's face, saying at least the fun didn't end with a body. Consumed by hatred, our MC screams in revolt at the absurdity of that cheap provocation. With a tug on his arm, the veteran tells the new guy to shut up before the real boss hears the argument. With a crazy look, the big goon challenges the nerd to say that nonsense in front of the absolute leader of the wing. After turning their backs with total contempt, the gang leaves the area, announcing they're taking a break. Outraged, the boy confronts his partner about his lack of reaction to such humiliation. In a calm voice, the Four Eyes explains that hiding emotions is a matter of life or passing on in prison. With a serious look, he guarantees that patience is the best weapon against monsters of that caliber. Curious, the kid asks if this sick submissiveness has to do with the place's mysterious secret. Without disagreeing, the partner ends the chat and arranges to meet back at the infirmary the next day. During the dead of night, the heavy silence of the cell is the only sound in the prison. Lying on the hard mattress, the nerd can't get a wink of sleep as he listens to his friend's ugly cough. In that instant, worry devours the boy's heart, making him seriously doubt the patient's resilience. Memories of the advice to endure everything silently clash with the vision of his partner wasting away in bed. In his own head, the student questions if becoming a punching bag is really the right way to live. Out of the corner of his eye, he glances at the champion of the fight sleeping peacefully and wishes for at least a fraction of that strength. Soon, the image of the invincible fighter proves that bullies only respect those who hit harder. In an attempt to understand the giant's power, the MC's mind replays the bloody fight from the yard. Perfect blows and deadly dodges play like a detailed movie in the weakling's head. On a courageous impulse, the kid attacks the air, imitating the champion's cross right there in the dark. But soon, the sad reality cuts through the fantasy, showing that his weakness has no magic cure. Huddled under the covers, the despair of never finding safety once again reigns in his tormented mind. The next day, the two friends walk down the corridor, silently helping each other. Due to the unusual emptiness, the new guy realizes everyone should still be in bed at that hour. Further ahead, the intimidating shadow of the director along with a team completely blocks the passage. Noticing the boy's presence, the director flashes a fake smile, asking the reason for their stroll. Quickly, the doctor appears on the scene, and the veteran uses the excuse of feeling sick again. Suspicious, the man in the tie raises an eyebrow, wanting to know the origin of the open wounds. In a cold sweat, the Four Eyes makes up a story that an old wound just reopened and everything is under control. Not buying the interrogation, the director clears the path with false sympathy. In a dark tone disguised as kindness, the big boss tells the patient to take very good care of his health. Away from the threat, our MC questions why they didn't rat out the damn bald guy. Cold and calculating, the alley states that corruption runs deep in that place, and you can't trust anyone. Close to the new guy's ear, the bombshell finally drops, revealing that the administration manufactures illicit substances inside. Shocked by the scale of the scheme, the nerd panics, asking who organizes the dirty work. Thirsty for revenge, the veteran reveals his risky plan to find the leader and bargain the secret for his freedom. With a grip on his shoulders, the final order is to bury the information deep inside and never open his mouth. Back on the gurney, the doctor cleans the heavy bruises while the patient grinds his teeth in pain. All of a sudden, the iron door is brutally thrown open by a team of winged guards. Screaming, the officer announces that by direct orders from the director, the veteran will be transferred to an outside hospital. Completely confused, our MC freezes, not understanding his friend's refusal to receive proper medical treatment. Sensing danger in the air, the doctor steps in front and swears to take full responsibility right there. With a psycho's face, the guard threatens the woman, telling her to shut her mouth if she wants to keep her job. With no escape route, the partner accepts his fate and decides to accompany the escort patiently. With an awkward smile, our boy promises to wait for his healed friend's triumphant return. Over his shoulder, the Four Eyes repeats the mantra of swallowing suffering in absolute silence. As a final piece of advice, he warns the new guy not to trust even his own shadow from that point on. Happy as can be, our MC faithfully believes that the outside doctors will report the bruises to the police. In his innocent mind, the bullies will finally pay dearly for all the torture they committed. Hours later in the mess hall, the boy devours his food, imagining his partner's rest days in the hospital. Suddenly, whispers start circulating among the tables, grabbing the new guy's full attention. Without shame, the thugs gossip about some idiot who tried to escape at dawn and ended up taking a dirt nap. Flashing a make-up smile, the thug reveals that the deceased was none other than the guy with glasses. Completely in shock, the tray slips from the nerd's hands and his dinner splatters on the floor. With trembling eyes and shortness of breath, our MC tries to process that the only good person in this hell has been executed. Completely in shock, our MC hears the news, trying to believe it's all just a sick mistake. Not understanding anything, he asks the head guard why this nightmare is happening. A cold as ice, the officer makes up a story that the veteran injured the agents during the escape and was hit by a truck. In the same sentence, the jerk declares that the fugitive's passing was instant, with no chance of help. Screaming at the top of his lungs, our boy calls the story a lie, guaranteeing that his friend didn't have the strength to hurt anyone. With a threatening look, the guard tells the crowd to burn those words into their minds. Flashing a sadistic smile, the final order is for everyone to walk the line so they don't end up in a box too. Quickly, the officers turn their backs and disappear down the dark corridor of the mess hall. Right in the nerd's ear, the disgusting bald guy whispers that the end was a waste, just when the toy was getting fun. Consumed by fury, our MC loses his mind and tells the monster to get lost. Laughing at the other's despair, the big guy confesses that the guy with glasses even tried to fight at first. But all it took was a threat of public humiliation for the veteran to become a submissive little angel in the gang's hands. Mocking even more, the villain says he wanted to play with all three of them together, making the boy's blood boil with rage. Driven purely by blind rage, the kid throws a desperate punch right at the aggressor's face. In response, a brutal kick sends the runt flying, tearing through the mess hall's air. Full of attitude, the bald guy scoffs at the weakness of the attack and calls the nerd out to fight. With another heavy blow, the trash is slammed into the ground without the slightest chance of defense. At the tables around, the other inmates find the new guy's stupidity funny and call for more of a beatdown. Without any mercy, a sequence of punches smashes our MC's face, sending blood flying. With a violent tug on his collar, the monster cynically asks if his prey has decided to play possum. In a threatening tone, the order is for the brat to get up and take it like a man. Suddenly, the invincible champion's hand blocks the punch, demanding the soup that was spilled in the confusion. Surprised and annoyed, the bald guy recognizes the dark-haired monster interrupting his fun. Far from the fight, the gossips even consider helping but give up on facing the elite. Out of fear of the guards, the crowd prefers to just watch the circus go up in flames from the sidelines. In a cold sweat, the coward trembles at his core and offers his own meal to calm the beast. In an attempt to get away, the bully pleads for peace and remembers that the police just told everyone to behave. In his own mind, the brute backs down out of fear but doesn't want to run off like a scared rat. Ignoring the trash, the fighter tells the injured nerd to go to the infirmary to honor his departed friend's wish. Groaning in pain, the kid clutches his destroyed chest, trying to pull the slightest bit of air into his lungs. Calmly, the champion turns his back and resumes the path to his table. In a deep voice, the only order that comes out of his mouth is a dry, direct request to clear the way. In a desperate attempt to save his shredded pride, the bald guy grabs the giant's shoulder, telling him to wait. With a deadly sideways glance, the prison legend suggests the trash let go of his arm before he's humiliated. Losing his patience, the bald guy feels offended and questions if his rival really thinks victory is guaranteed. In total shock, the thugs can't believe the psycho is actually going to pick a fight with death itself. Not giving a single care, the champion complains again that his food is going to get cold because of this nuisance. Blind with rage, the pervert charges with everything he's got, throwing a colossal punch towards the back of his enemy's neck. Hyped for the carnage, the prisoners already start betting and predict a live takedown. Charging like a blind bull, the aggressor reveals he's trained like a demon to never lose again. Yelling, he demands the legend stop dodging and fight for real. Easily, the dark hero blocks the impact using just one hand, without breaking a sweat. Analyzing the fight, the audience declares that this is just the beginning, and soon the bald guy will be taking a long nap. Paralyzed on the floor, our boy can barely blink at such a bizarre power difference. Totally fed up, the champion sighs, stating that this game has lost its fun. Suddenly, the invincible fighter changes his stance in the blink of an eye. Believing in his own victory, the big guy prepares the final blow to take the reformatory's crown. With a simple step to the side, the human wall dodges the destructive fist without the slightest effort. At an absurd speed, the hero disappears from his opponent's sight. With a heavy hand descending like a sledgehammer, the counter-attack hits the bald guy with fatal precision. Immediately, the monster's massive body collapses, crushing the floor and knocking him out instantly. Faced with the mess on his plate, the champion just shakes his head and settles for what's left of the food. Between grunts of pain, the loser tries to drag himself away, humiliated in front of the entire wing. Before that impeccable scene, our MC confirms the absolute rule that brute force solves any problem. To break the tense atmosphere, the guards invade the mess hall, screaming for the crowd to return to their cells. With a mocking little smile, the officer asks if the knocked-out mountain of muscle needs a doctor. Laughing at the other's misfortune, the guard doesn't even bother to hide his contempt. Pointing towards the infirmary, the authority tells the injured man to disappear without causing more trouble. Clenched teeth, the defeated man swears revenge against the guy who just broke his face. Towards our MC, the promises of a merciless massacre at the next opportunity. To instill even more terror, the villain announces that the psycho boss gets out of solitary in just 1 year. With a macabre smile, the final sentence guarantees that the top dog will slice up the nerd long before that. Back in the infirmary, the doctor sighs warily upon seeing the patient all busted up again on the gurney. During the bandaging, the death threat doesn't leave the boy's head, echoing like an infinite curse. Trembling in shock, the poor guy's eyes widen, feeling the expiration date of his own life run out. Brought back by the doctor, the kid blinks quickly and tries to hide his obvious panic. At that exact moment, the legendary fighter enters the medical room with the utmost calm. Straight to the cabinet, the brute grabs a bottle of medicine as if he were in his own home. In a single gulp, the legend downs the liquid without a second glance at the patched up trash on the bed. Courage coming from his soul, our MC swallows his fear and murmurs for attention. In a blind leap, the boy gets up and begs the hero to wait a second before leaving. Under a cold gaze, the champion tells the runt to get out of the way immediately. With his back bowed in absolute respect, the nerd yells a desperate plea to learn how to fight. Near the door, the master of brawling turns his head and questions the reason for such a useless request. In a choked voice, the truth is revealed about the bloody and inevitable revenge of the Wings leader next year. Desperate, our MC argues that he needs to survive this hell no matter what. With tears in his eyes, the boy reveals his only goal is to get out alive to see his mother again. Cold as ice, the champion refuses the request, claiming he has better things to do with his life. With his hands firm on the giant's arm, the nerd tries to stop his last hope from leaving. Straight to the point, the hero advises the trash to just lower his head and endure prison silently. In a desperate plea, the Four Eyes begs to be trained right there. With his back to the kid, the legend praises his courage but decrees that the problem is not his business. With a dark look, the brute reminds him that the reformatory is not a martial arts school. With a heavy stump on the floor, our boy screams for the master to wait one more second. Recalling the past, the kid recounts the story of injustice from his own rich and cowardly enemy. To explain the difference in level, the human wall states that the nerd could never handle the mission. Without a shred of pity, the final order is for the injured one to get back to the infirmary. With heavy steps, the champion decrees that the boy lacks the true determination to handle the grind. Alone and destroyed, our MC realizes there is absolutely nothing left in his life. Suddenly, a violent bump from a veteran snaps the poor guy out of his dark thoughts. Fallen on the dirty floor, the precious family photo is mercilessly stomped on by the thugs. Consumed by fury, the student charges at the bullies without considering the consequences. Yelling, the nerd demands the photo back, shouting that the memory belongs to his departed friend's family. In response, a brutal kick hits the runt's face, sending blood splattering on the asphalt. Laughing at the other's misfortune, the gang tells the trash to cower in the corner and tremble in fear. Full of mockery, the group's leader throws it in his face that the new guy's former protector is already history. Tearing the photo to pieces, the thug announces that any chance of salvation is gone. Pieces of paper fly in the wind, carry away the last memory of his partner with glasses. Teeth, a murderous rage takes over our boy's eyes. Driven by a blind instinct, he charges like a wounded animal at the aggressors. Under a heavy downpour, the beatdown rages on as the kid takes hit after hit. Spitting blood, the nerd swears he will never accept his end at the hands of that scum. From a distance in the rain, the muscular champion analyzes the scene under the storm. In a soul-deep roar, the trash declares he wants to live with his head held high, without depending on anyone. Impressed by the spark of courage, the master decides to give him a vote of confidence. Completely soaked, the kid pleads for just one single chance to prove his worth. Noticing the drastic change in his eyes, the prison legend realizes the fire has finally been lit. As a cruel condition, the giant announces that free time ends in exactly 1 hour. With a dark smile, the challenge is to carry all the sandbags before time runs out. At the first shout to start, our MC runs desperately to grab the weight. Between groans of pain, he lifts the heavy sack, feeling his legs tremble from the extreme effort. Memories of helping his mother in childhood fuel the boy's weak muscles. Believing in victory, the young man pushes forward in the storm, trusting his absurd endurance. Mentally calculating the time, he realizes that hitting the target is entirely possible if he keeps the pace. With his arms crossed, the brute admits his surprise at the new disciple's capacity. Not understanding anything, the other inmates think the runt is crazy for working under the downpour. Curious, they question the identity of the dark giant supervising the insane training. Changing the subject, one of the thugs asks if his buddy got permission for his visit. Grumbling, the thug complains that seeing his girlfriend, for just a few minutes, is a complete waste of time. At the door of the visiting room, a tense atmosphere already dominates the completely isolated environment. Far away, the noseless preppy punk rushes his older brother to take out the nerd. Casually on the sofa, the gang leader tells his younger brother to stop the useless fuss. Annoyed by the delay, the rich kid screams that his own revenge should be the family's top priority. Out of control, the kid demands immediate action, slamming the table with all his force. To shut down the tantrum, a sharp open-handed slap cracks across the spoiled brother's face. With eyes full of rage, the boss criticizes his younger brother's weakness for getting beaten by trash. Pulling the preppy punk's hair, the monster warns him to solve his own problems. Between whimpers, the coward swallows his tears while feeling the iron grip on his head. Trembling with fear, the rich kid apologizes, immediately taking the blame for his stupidity. After letting the victim go, the big guy explains that consecutive demises in prison draw too much police attention. With a diabolical look, the real plan is to let the runt suffer for a whole year in a daily hell. With a drag of his cigarette, the promise of slow torture is sealed in the smoky air. Back in the rain, our boy suffers horribly with the last 15 sandbags. With steps dragging across the yard, the weight feels like it's crushing the exhausted student's bones. With only 10 minutes on the clock, the champion coldly assesses that the new guy won't make the challenge. Even impressed with his grit, the giant recognizes the physical limitations of the fragile body. In a sigh of disappointment, the master concludes that the boy would never endure the real training. Noticing the look of pity, our boy feels the disappointment coming from his idol. Discouraged, the kid thinks it makes sense, since he's never had any talent in his life. With each step in the puddles, paranoia attacks, making him doubt the training's intentions. At the limit of exhaustion, the voice of weakness whispers for him to drop the weight and give up. With a clouded mind, the poor guy wonders if it wouldn't be easier to just throw in the towel. Out of nowhere, the bald guy's gang pops up in the yard, mockingly asking if the trash is tired already. Between cackles, the cowards say that giving up is the best possible choice for the weakling. Close to his ear, the damn bald guy tells the nerd to wag his tail like a dog for his new master. Hitting where it hurts, the aggressor calls the kid a failure, just like his useless mother. Suddenly, the student's dead eyes gain a terrifying and purely furious glint. With the same disgusting question, the thugs mock his dream of becoming a feared fighter. With his eyes narrowed in the darkness, hatred burns away any remnant of the boy's cowardice. Flashing a cynical smile, the pervert finishes by telling the runt to accept his own ruin. With a lunatic's laugh, the big guy tells our MC to just accept his fate and drop dead. With his face in a puddle of water, the kid growls that he is not a piece of trash. In an explosion of pure willpower, he screams at the top of his lungs, demanding respect. Taken over by a bizarre energy, the nerd sprints with the sandbag, promising to fight until his last breath. Through gritted teeth, the boy's only certainty is that he won't leave any regrets behind. Watching the scene up close, the dark giant lets out a sideways smile, approving of the grit. With less than 10 bags left, the runt's breathing already sounds like a pressure cooker's whistle. Without blinking, the master realizes the kid's body is miraculously operating beyond its limits. Worried about a sudden collapse, the big guy demands the run end immediately. Blinded by determination, the student refuses the order and continues marching in the storm. Yelling at his own master, the prey states he needs to prove his worth to keep breathing. With no patience left, the human wall advances into the rain, intending to end the stubbornness by force. In a serious tone, the fighter warns that his fragile body will simply shut down that way. From the trash's empty gaze, the giant notices that words have no effect anymore. Completely in a trance, our MC mutters that he's very close to crossing the finish line. Through blurred vision, the final goal is reduced to just 3 sad sandbags. In a mix of pain and a smile, his brain repeats that victory is right there. Suddenly, a sharp, surgical blow from the master hits the runner in the pit of his stomach. Fallen on the cold ground, the poor guy can barely form the question of why he was stopped. Calmly, the big guy apologizes, stating that brute force was the only way to prevent cardiac arrest. Thrown in the mud, the nerd insists on continuing the job anyway. With a heavy hand on the kid, the giant decrees that the test of worth has already been successfully completed. Out of strength, our MC makes his final request and finally hears the official confirmation from his new master. With a confident smile, the promise to turn the trash into a real monster is sealed. Soon after, darkness swallows the boy's vision, revealing only a blurred silhouette in the background. Through the mental fog, he tries to recognize the person and whispers his own name. Suddenly, the deformed face of the noseless rich kid appears, promising a slow and painful end. In a violent jolt, the student screams in terror, shattering the peace of the infirmary. Startled, the prison doctor almost drops her equipment on the floor. Breathing a sigh of relief, the woman scolds him, saying that pushing his body to the point of fainting is pure idiocy. Leaning against the door, the dark champion announces that their conversation outside was 100% serious. After making room for the doctor, the big guy leaves the room, warning that free time is almost over. In the corridor, the strategy is revealed, using the excuse of medical treatment to train in the secret warehouse. Face to face with the new guy, the master demands absolute silence about the operation. Bowing in utmost respect, our boy promises to give it his all as he listens to the instructions. In a bucket of cold water, the giant reveals that those sandbags were just the warm-up. Cold and calculating, he lays it on the line that survival here requires inhuman preparation. Back on the gurney, the nerd swallows hard, realizing the size of the strength gap between them. Noticing his nervousness, the doctor questions the patient's panicked look. Our MC tries to get some gossip about the new teacher's mysterious past. Wrapping the bandage, the woman confesses that the guy is an indecipherable lone wolf full of secrets. To reassure the new guy, she guarantees that the brute has a good heart and was only imprisoned for defending his family. Closing the first aid box, the dark warning echoes, reminding him that ignorance saves lives in prison. Ready to dismiss the kid, she informs him that the heavy training is already set up in the warehouse. With a gentle smile, the doctor wishes luck to the poor guy who's about to enter the meat grinder. On the warehouse door, a makeshift sign ensures privacy during free time. The moment he turns the handle, the student's jaw drops at the scene. Completely in shadow, the room looks more like a labyrinth filled with old shelves. Shivering from the cold, the recruit comments on the absolute darkness of the place. Straight from the shadows, the master explains that fighting in the dark sharpens one's killer instincts. In an impulse to show his readiness, our boy salutes and lets out an enthusiastic greeting. Straight to the point, the fighter cuts the excitement, establishing 2 unbreakable laws. Raising a finger, the first rule strictly forbids any gossip or showing off the moves outside of here. With a thumbs up, the trash accepts the deal without hesitation. Confused, he tries to understand the reason for total secrecy right before the second order. With a stern face, the giant tells his prey to shut up and just obey blindly. Without wasting time, the stopwatch starts for the practical leveling test. Our MC drops to the floor, forcing his abs into clumsy sit-ups. With a red face and sweating buckets, his muscle weakness screams with every repetition. At the end of the time, the shameful score reveals pathetic numbers and not even 2 complete pull-ups. With his hand on his head, the prison legend calls the result a joke and decides to change the entire schedule. With a quick order, a short rest is decreed after the torture on the pull-up bar. Panting, the kid hears that the grit from the previous day was just cheap adrenaline and they'll have to start from square one. In the middle of the lecture, the new goal is to double his pathetic performance in just 72 hours. Jaw dropped, the recruit complains, thinking he was going to learn deadly punches on the first day. Under a deadly glare, the master questions the ignorance of that weak reasoning. In a supersonic crack, a colossal punch freezes millimeters before smashing the nerd's nose. With the wind from the impact still hitting him, the teacher proves that a weak body could never dodge, let alone counter-attack. For drama, the dry order is to resume training immediately. In a complete state of exhaustion, the poor guy begs for a measly 5 minutes of rest. By the rule of blind obedience, the giant decides to make a small exception to explain the theory. With a finger in the boy's face, the raw truth is that a muscle base has to exist before the brawl. Using the thugs as an example, he throws it in his face that even the weakest goon requires heavy physical conditioning. Still stuck on the terrifying math, our MC almost freaks out at the stipulated time limit. At the end of the explanation, the reformatory's golden rule is seared into his mind, guaranteeing that the weak always end up in the cemetery. Facing the locked door, the MC's mind replays the warning that the scarred leader is purely cruel and never leaves a job half done. In a cold sweat of tension, our boy hears that anyone without the strength to fight with their own hands has no future in there. Like a demonic shadow, the image of the psycho boss proves that the weakling's life will become hell on earth. Cold and direct, the dark fighter asks the kid if he'll still have the nerve to ask for a break after knowing the truth. With fire in his eyes, the student locks his gaze on the giant, showing that his weakness is finally a thing of the past. From the cell window, the decision is already made with a firm promise that he will face the challenge. The will to survive breaks the room's silence, showing that desperation has turned into fuel. Without wasting time, the recruit takes a deep bow, begging to receive the master's special training. Staring down the new guy, the teacher warns his prey not to make empty promises and forbids any attempt to annoy him. In a serious tone, the legend tells the kid to prove all that conviction through a lot of sweat and action. Bitter memories of those he couldn't save hit the nerd hard, reinforcing the reason he needs that brute strength. After the lecture, the master asks if the final message was clearly understood. In a soul-deep roar, RMC confirms the order and declares that the brutal training can begin right now. Back in the warehouse, the doctor inspects the student's form, telling him to lower his hips and fix his neck. With a slight smile, the woman teases the fighter, saying he pretends to be tough but deep down wanted to let the poor guy rest. Wearing a giant shirt, the nerd finds the absurd size of the garment strange as it's baggy all over his body. Attentive to details, the teacher explains that the loose clothing is to hide any muscle gain from his enemies. If the scum finds out about the secret training, the warning is clear that the gang will crush the runt before he can get strong. Soon after, the giant decides to explain the reformatory's power structure to avoid deadly surprises. Scared by the possibility, our boy asks if all the district bosses are as crazy as the scarred leader. With his arms crossed, the master denies it, revealing that only that big shot has a blind obsession with power. Full of questions, the kid asks what the criteria are for the other leaders to take the top of the food chain. Flashing a mocking smile, the legend throws it in his face that brute force isn't the only thing needed to control criminals. In fact, cunning is the main weapon of the top brass, who hold monthly meetings with the guards to keep everything on track. To avoid gossip throughout the prison, these meetings happen in the interview room under the guise of casual chats. Due to the power difference between the bosses, their trusted goons always stand guard in case the peace ends. On that exact day, the crime lords are seated at a round table, ready to decide the wing's fate. With a fake smile, the pink-haired leader of the South District breaks the ice, calling everyone for a friendly chat. Full of venom, the pink-haired guy pokes at his scared rival, demanding an explanation for the recent mess in his territory. Losing his patience, the tattooed big guy tells the meddler to mind his own business, not hiding his anger. Laughing in his opponent's face, the Southern leader suggests neutering the big guy to prevent him from causing worse problems. Hitting where it hurts, the provocateur mocks the humiliating situation of the bald bully who recently got his butt kicked. With a disgusting cackle, the sadist warns that his rival will soon be left with no decent allies in prison. In an outburst of rage, the scared leader slams the table while the West District boss tries to calm things down. With a weak smile, the peacemaker reminds them that the administration is watching everything closely, which is why stress is high. Not letting it go, the pink-haired guy brings up that the alley with glasses passed on trying to protect our MC at all costs. Full of malice, he doubts the perverted bald guy acted alone in the dead of night. Completely cynical, the Southerner calls the goon an idiot and directly compares his stupidity to his own boss. Seething with fury, the scarred monster stands up, ready to bathe the interview room in the mocker's blood. Quickly, the pink-haired psycho gets up from his chair, holding a heavy glass pitcher. In a cowardly move, the pitcher flies straight at the big guy's face, shattering glass and opening a nasty cut. Desperate about the brawl, the peaceful leader's blood runs cold, predicting severe punishment from the administration. Suddenly, an authoritative roar echoes through the room, telling the mad dogs to stop the show. Taking a drag from his cigarette, the East District leader gives a look of pure disgust at the childish fight. Slowly across the room, the big shot throws it in their faces that despite the years, they still act like immature kids. To resolve the beef, the Easterner grabs the two brawlers' heads and smashes their foreheads into the wooden table with force. Relieved by the intervention, the West boss thanks the heavens, saying only that monster can stop the lunatics. Serious as a rock, the heavy-hitting peacemaker orders the meeting to really begin while the scarred guy grumbles. Back in his chair, the new order is to keep a close eye on the kid and the knocked-out bald guy to avoid any fatalities. With a freezing glare, the big shot issues the order, expressly forbidding the murder of our MC. Despite understanding the anger over his humiliated younger brother, the warning is that starting a war now is pure stupidity. Grabbing the troublemaker's shirts, the final threat makes it clear that dragging the East District into the mess will result in a massacre. With his hands raised in a fake sign of peace, the pink-haired preppy accepts the condition as long as his rival takes care of his own dog. Staring at his enemy with sadism, he deduces that the big guy's silence means pure submission to the agreement. In a mocking mood, the pink psycho claps his hands and ends the theatrics, declaring the official end of that charade. Outside, the angry leader's right-hand man notices that the top brass avoided touching on the subject of the alley with glasses' demise. In the darkness of the room, the scarred boss flashes a macabre smile as he processes the order not to off the trash. Outraged by the rules, the monster decides that no one has enough power to stop his thirst for revenge. Like a true tyrant, he instructs his goon to spread the news that torturing our MC is completely allowed, as long as he doesn't check out. With a confident smile, the lackey accepts the mission, guaranteeing that the nerd's life will become an absolute hell. Clenching his bruised fists, the villain mutters the new guy's name with a soul-burning hatred. With his eyes gleaming in the shadow, the psycho announces that the bloody fun is about to begin. Far away in the safety of the warehouse, the recruit reflects on the variety of demons in charge of the prison. Calmly, the teacher summarizes the profiles, pointing out the scar's violence, the pink-haired guy's coldness, and the West leader's caution. Focusing on the supreme leader of the East, the explanation defines that territory's policy as avoiding conflict at all costs. However, if anyone steps out of line in his area, the punishment is personally delivered by the untouchable big shot. Completely surprised, the nerd's eyes widen, and he questions why the other prisoners don't organize a rebellion against this. Without hesitation, the master states that the East boss is by far the strongest and most feared man in the entire reformatory. After delivering the crucial survival details, the legend decrees the end of the gossip and orders the focus back to training. Straight and to the point, the First Order demands 20 well-executed push-ups, getting an immediate confirmation from the kid. At the infirmary table, the doctor internally cheers, noticing how the student has reignited the fire in the lonely master's chest. As she signs the official papers with the boy's name, she silently wishes that all this effort bears fruit. Back in the inmates' area, an invasion of a restricted area causes shouting and chaos in the cold corridors. Inside the forbidden cell, the disgusting bald guy is crushed on the floor, paying the price for embarrassing himself in front of the pink-haired leader. Mercilessly, the scared boss punches his own goon's face, demanding to know how he's going to fix the gang's shame. Consumed by rage, the bald big guy promises to smash his rival's face right then and there. From up high, the scarred leader stares at his humiliated subordinate with eyes red with pure fury. Desperate, the tattooed goon tries to hold back the boss to avoid a bigger tragedy. In a calm voice, the right-hand man asks for the dust to settle and for the matter to die right there. To end the subject, the clear order demands much more self-control from the gang from that moment on. On the cold floor, the perverted bald guy swallows his pride and begs for forgiveness for the absurd shame. Screaming, the scarred monster kicks the failure out of the room without a shred of patience. Away from the bosses, the humiliated coward swears revenge, promising to take out all his anger on our MC. With a diabolical smile, the right-hand man plans a very warm welcome for the new guy in the reformatory. As danger approaches, our boy stays strong, pulling weight and sweating buckets in the secret training. With his whole body aching, the muscle pain hits hard during the simple cleaning job. Suddenly, the shower water shuts off right in the middle of the recruit's sweaty bath. On the Thug smiles as he maliciously closes the main valve. Not understanding anything, the nerd blinks confusedly in the dark of the giant bathroom. All of a sudden, a brutal shove throws the kid straight onto the tiled floor. Surrounded by scum, the gang mockingly announces they came especially to take care of the new guy. With a violent kick, our MC is mercilessly thrown into a dirty basin on the floor. Without pity, the cowards dunk the kid's head in the water, laughing at his suffocating desperation. Hours later, the scene of torture moves to the cold and silent prison laundry room. A huge cart of dirty clothes, one of the bullies advances heavily towards the target. Trying to ignore the clear threat, our boy focuses on the clothes to escape trouble. In a cowardly attack from behind, a jolt sends the student flying forward. Shocked, the hostage dives face first into the metal drum of the washing machine. With macabre laughter, the aggressors push the rest of his body in and forcefully lock the glass door. Without a second thought, the thug's finger presses the button to start the long cycle. Desperate, the runt punches the glass, begging for help as the wheel begins to turn. Worried about an accidental fatality, one of the gang members hesitates and suggests cutting the power. After surviving the infernal spin, our MC walks through the corridors, trying to catch his breath. At dinner time, the full tray of food brings a brief illusion of peace to his empty stomach. But in the blink of an eye, a malicious bump sends the entire dinner flying to the ceiling. With boiling broth falling on his skin, the poor guy roars in agony in the middle of the mess hall. Full of cynicism, the aggressor crouches down, feigning concern and asking if it hurt a lot. Right after, a destructive blow sinks the kid for good onto the dirty tiles. By the hair, the gang drags their prey and forces the trash's face right against the spilled food. Yelling, the thugs tell the failure to get lost if he's not going to lick his plate clean off the floor. Defeated and hungry, our boy crawls away, feeling the bitter taste of pure humiliation. Inside the infirmary, the doctor acts quickly, putting new bandages on the sufferer's face. With a heavy sigh, the doctor warns that his body won't handle the strain of this hell for much longer. Then, the giant shadow of the teacher appears at the door, earning a scolding from the woman in the lab coat. Still dizzy, the kid swallows hard and tries to focus on the tense conversation between the adults. In a deep voice, the mentor lays it on the line that getting beaten like a dog also serves as a lesson. According to the explanation, cowards always repeat the same movements and habits when they fight. Fully focused on the lesson, the nerd feels the dots connect inside his brilliant mind. Full of questions, the question escapes, wanting to know the impossible shortcut to predict the swift attacks. With a firm grip on his shoulder, the master guarantees that the luxury of teaching the dark secret is now available. To pass on the survival technique, the giant demands blind and absolute conviction from the new guy. Straight to the point, the final choice is laid out for him to decide if he will go out a weakling or become a feared monster. Without any warning, a thunderous punch cracks across the recruit's face, sending him flying. Yelling, the teacher forbids his prey from closing his eyes if he wants to keep breathing in real combat. Through forced observation, the hidden detail in the shoulders becomes the main danger radar. Receiving another brutal blow, the runt tries to assimilate the pain with his reaction time. With his eyeball almost popping out, his brain finally processes the mechanics of the impact before it lands. In a sudden miracle, the body obeys and throws its weight to the side, avoiding the sledgehammer to the face. But the illusion is short-lived, with the fighter announcing that dodging a single blow took an eternity. Hitting him hard on the back, the golden lesson is to endure the pain on purpose to open up gaps in the opponent. For the last time, the warning echoes in the room, demanding that the chance to retaliate never be wasted. With heavy steps, the prison legend walks away, promising to return after the dirty work. Before completely disappearing from view, a rare compliment escapes, admitting the nerd's progress. With his soul cleansed, our MC feels the words sear into his chest, bringing immense relief. Out in the hallway, the doctor already prepares her scolding, warning that the risk of internal bleeding is huge. Cold as ice, the master responds that softening the training will only guarantee the recruit a spot in a coffin. Concerned about the rush, the doctor pushes back, claiming the violent technique borders on suicide. Bluntly, the woman states that a single slip up in the mess hall and the big guys will slice the kid up. With a discreet smile, the brute dismisses the theory, guaranteeing that the runt has a thick skin. In a tone of pure pride, the certainty that victory is imminent silences the infirmary's concerns. Back to the heavy torture, the training sends an absurd pressure of water straight into the students' retinas. To master the visual technique, the cruel order is not to blink even a millimeter under the violent jet. Even with the pain piercing his eyeball, the maniacal focus doesn't yield for a single second. Memories of all the beatings and humiliations inject pure fuel into the student's racing mind. As he suffers new blows to the face, the promise to keep his gaze frozen on the threat finally becomes automatic. Meanwhile, the beatdowns continue unabated in the yard, with the cowardly silence of the guards. Full of sarcasm, the worst thugs gossip about our boy's physical limit for taking a beating. In a tense conversation, one of the thugs reminds the group that the famous collector just got out of solitary. In the shadows of absolute punishment, the terrifying figure of the psycho enjoys his newfound freedom. Completely dominated by the stress of the cage, the lunatic proves his level of madness by crushing everything he sees. With his eyes gleaming with pure insanity, the recently released from solitary can't wait to cause a bloodbath. In the reformatory yard, free time begins under a heavy and suffocating tension in the air. Aware of the danger, the thugs whisper that the psycho is eager to get reacquainted with trouble. Soon, the guards warn the guy not to do anything stupid that would send him back to the hole. Ignoring the authorities, the lunatic focuses his bizarre attention directly on our boy. Walking towards the runt, the psycho declares he wants to fight for no reason at all. Curious, the other prisoners watch the scene, declaring that the subject is completely off his rocker. In the gossip circle, the maniac's dark reputation comes to light, revealing that he doesn't just beat his targets. Worse than that, the sicko usually tears off pieces of his enemies during fights. Displaying glass vials with eyeballs, the bizarre character carries the macabre title of Collector. Right in front of his prey, the monster formally introduces himself as Takedo Kayama, oozing cynicism. Without ceremony, the psycho flashes a creepy smile, asking for the nerd's left eye as a souvenir. Trembling at his core, the kid immediately realizes he's facing a pure, natural psychopath. Faced with the student's terrified silence, the sadist assumes that silence means consent. In a violent leap, the hunter charges like an animal, throwing his whole body at our MC. Quickly, the audience sets up a betting pool, confirming absurd odds against the new guy. In the middle of the yard, the brawl erupts, with the maniac attacking without giving any room to breathe. After drawing first blood from the trash, the psycho licks his lips, praising the taste of fresh meat. Totally ecstatic, the eye collector promises a horror show to claim his prize. Despite the beating, our MC keeps his focus locked on the enemy's movement, just as his master taught. Forcing his vision under pressure, he tries to identify the exact moment of the next pounce. In a moment of clarity, the boy's brain picks up on the opponent's nervous tick before he punches. Gritting his teeth, he realizes that the dark training's visual trick is starting to work. Frustrated by the dodge, the psycho clicks his tongue, showing pure irritation at the runt's stubbornness. Furious, the monster announces that the kid's luck has run out and launches another brutal attack. Reading his body language, the nerd deciphers that the sequence always starts with the left, then the right. Confident in the memorized pattern, the target waits for the perfect moment to retaliate. In an explosion of courage, our MC adjusts his stance and decides to go all in on the bet too. Dodging the hook perfectly, the student's arm cuts through the air, straight to the lunatic's chin. With the solid impact, the aggressor goes airborne, spitting blood and landing sprawled on the asphalt. Bag of trash, the maniac's body hits the ground hard, knocked out by a single cross. In complete shock, the yard's gossips can't believe what their own eyes just registered. Staring at the destroyed villain, the crowd goes wild at the impossible defeat of the untouchable psycho. Unable to find a logical explanation, the thugs accuse the runt of using performance enhancers to have so much strength. Through the fence, the muscular master watches the result and nods in approval. With the upset confirmed, the bettors mourn the loss of their dirty money, tearing up their tickets. Back in the infirmary, the kid gets a few smacks on the head to bring him back down to earth and keep him from getting a big head. Cleaning his cuts, the doctor lays it on the line, saying that perishing there would have been the most obvious outcome. Sitting shirtless on the gurney, the survivor agrees, confessing he thought he was headed straight for the morgue. Despite the relief, sadness hits hard as he looks at the shattered glasses he got from his own mother. Interrupting the moment, the door creaks, revealing the silent master's arrival in the room. With great respect, the new guy bows, thanking the hero for his miraculous teachings. The pouring water on the fire, the legend warns that the victory only happened because the lunatic fought wide open and without technique. All of a sudden, a small black box is thrown at the surprised student. Without changing his icy expression, the teacher says the item is just a small prize for his first victory. To ruin the celebratory mood, the giant decrees that from tomorrow on, the hellish training will double in intensity. Pulling items from the cabinet, the doctor grumbles that the big guy can't give a compliment without making a threat. Inside the little box, our MC finds a clean pair of contact lenses and notices his mentor's hidden care. Smiling, the doctor announces that the surprise isn't over and retrieves something special from her bag. Placing a thermal lunchbox on the table, the woman tells the boy to open it. In a gentle tone, she explains that she was late for work today because of an unusual request. With wide eyes, the nerd smells an incredibly familiar scent wafting through his nostrils. Lifting the lid, the meal reveals the exact spicy stew his family used to eat. To complete the emotional moment, the doctor passes on the message that the boy's mother is doing very well outside. Sweet memories of the past warm the boy's mind, remembering his mother's smile at the stove. In those memories, her warm voice promised that his favorite food would be ready in the blink of an eye. Between sobs, the poor guy mixes his tears with the seasoning, murmuring how much he missed it. Curious, he swallows his tears and asks how the doctor discovered such an intimate secret from his past. The woman confesses that the master ordered the dish long before the chaos in the yard broke out. With a wet face, the kid realizes that the grumpy teacher believed in his victory from the very first second. Demanding composure, the doctor tells the patient to clean his plate to celebrate the rare moment of joy. Chewing hard, the kid swears to give it his all because he knows the next day will be pure torture. Far from the infirmary's peace, an atmosphere of absolute terror dominates the scum's cell. Thrown in the trash, the knocked-out psycho coughs up blood but doesn't lose the creepy smile on his face. Completely delirious, the collector mutters our MC's name, swearing he wants to play more with his prey. Annoyed by the clowning, a goon kicks the idiot in the stomach, who can't stop laughing. Atop the boxes, the scarred leader acknowledges that the runt really brought a bitter surprise. Without losing control, the direct order is to keep a close eye on the nerd's routine at all times. Cold and calculating, the boss wants to find out if the knockout was pure luck or if the failure is hiding his claws. Clenching his fist hard, the top dog wonders if the trash has finally stopped being pathetic. The next day, the training resumes with the master promising to add 2 new stages to the pain menu. Without delay, the new additions involve a superior combat style and techniques for falling without breaking bones. Cutting through the wind, the giant charges like a missile, sending the first blow straight to the student's ribs. With a dull thud, the heavy punch hits the boy's defense, kicking up dust in the warehouse. Yelling, the prison legend demands the apprentice contract his abdomen to protect his internal organs. Trapped in a chokehold in the air, our MC hears the essential rule about mastering his own breathing in combat. Pushed to the extreme, the kid grits his teeth, counting the seconds until he blacks out. Close to his ear, the master explains that time seems to stop when you're out of air, sharpening all vital senses. Exactly at this peak of agony, the enemy's body freezes, opening the perfect window for a counter-attack. Surprised by the tactic, the apprentice questions what to do if he's the target of the blow. Tapping his chest, the giant tells the boy to control his own heartbeat to stabilize his mind. Faced with a confused look, the legend guarantees that manipulating the physical through the mental is the key to becoming a monster. With a simulated punch, the lesson advances to anatomy, demanding total knowledge of body mechanics. Straight to the third rib, the teacher reveals the weak points that guarantee a destructive impact. If you ignore this rule, punching blindly becomes just a useless waste of energy and sweat. Pulling the imaginary target's forehead, the big guy teaches how to use knees for fatal close-range damage. Furious with the new guy's posture, the mentor yells to focus the entire base on his legs. Through heavy corrections, the student tries again and finally earns a compliment from the grumpy teacher. Accepting no failures, the brute demands fluid movements using both lower limbs together. In an aggressive leap, the runt tears through the air, executing the knee strike with impressive fury. To prove his progress, the giant praises the technique, and our boy thanks him with a respectful bow. After wrapping his hands, the kid is told he's ready to survive on his own from now on. Tightening the fabric, the master defines the cell leader as the first official target of the hunt. Without blinking, the supreme order is to defeat the room's boss and claim the title of the reformatory's Mad Dog. Immediately, the loudspeakers echo through the corridors, announcing the end of free time for the inmates. In the nerd's mind, a conflict arises about the best place and time to start the bloody duel. With his back to the student, the lone hero warns that losing is acceptable, as long as the punches are tested. The moment he steps inside the room, the mood quickly darkens with the scum's cynical reception. Striking up a mocking conversation, the thugs comment that the trash came back early from his walk. Raged by the scene, our MC yells, questioning why there's a delinquent lying on his bed. Laughing, the intruder calls the new guy a cheapskate, assuring him he only borrowed the space. In the blink of an eye, the student grabs the sheet and violently throws the fabric, knocking the freeloader to the floor. Completely surprised, the thug sprawls on the dirty floor, kicking up dust in the cell. Cackling at the fight, the room's leader says the reactions of fresh meat are always the best. Rubbing his dirty hand on the cloth, the boss provokes, saying he only used the bed to clean the dirt off. Full of mockery, the scumbag throws water in the sink and tells the recruit to accept the humiliation for the sake of good cohabitation. Very close to the boy's ear, the aggressor whispers that becoming a doormat is a tiny price for protection in prison. Complaining about the grip, the boss compares his own kindness to the tyranny of the bunk's previous owner. Blind which our MC delivers a violent elbow straight to the cynical provocateur's ribs. With the stinging impact, the leader recoils furiously, not understanding the weakling's sudden rebellion. Ready to pounce, the thug lunges at the kid in an aggressive leap, demanding obedience. Surprised by the block, the big guy admits that the runt has a much better defense than advertised. With a sadistic smile, the villain decrees the end of the game and promises to fight for real from that second on. With a brutal cross, the impact throws the nerd back, dragging his shoe on the cement. Holding his injured arm, the apprentice realizes that just one parry left his entire hand numb. Full of attitude, the cell leader questions if the new guy thought the title of boss was just for show. Blind with rage, the coward states that sucking up to powerful people is the thing he despises most in life. With another heavy sequence, the enemy warns that if he were weak, he would have already become history like the Four Eyes. With a quick dodge, the blow hits the air as the memory of his departed partner ignites the boy's rage. In a torn scream of fury, our MCs the trash to shut his mouth and lands a clean punch on his opponent. Firmly gripping the enemy's arm, the nerd roars, forbidding the monster from uttering his murdered friend's name. With a surgical twist, the crack of the aggressor's bone echoes through the room, drawing a scream of absolute pain. Trembling in agony, the injured leader promises to off the scumbag right then and there. Shocked by the scene, the goons despair and comment on how pathetic the boss looks getting beaten. Without giving him a break, our boy sinks his fist into his rival's stomach, completely breaking his guard. Memories of the medical lesson flash back, proving that attacking ligaments tears joints and paralyzes the pre. Focused on destruction, the MC demolishes the boss's joints, causing unbearable physical torment. Following the master's advice, the tactic of dominating the ground to apply vital strikes comes into play perfectly. Realizing the leader's imminent defeat, the other lackeys decide to jump into the fight to save their own skins. With fire in his eyes, the student locks a gaze of pure killer instinct on the cowards. Quickly, the kid advances on the first goon, grabbing the target's hair with blind fury. With a dull thud, the lackey collapses, bent over, groaning from the absurd pain in his scalp. On the other side, a psycho raises a plastic basin, ready to smash the new guy's head from behind. Turning his face in the shadows, the mad dog challenges the aggressor, asking if he wants a beating too. Completely paralyzed with fear, the basin wielder backs off, making the lame excuse that he was just passing through. Silently, the defeated leader's hand slides across the floor, searching for a makeshift weapon in the dirt. With a cowardly look, the villain calls the kid an idiot for letting his guard down too soon. Getting up with the sharp object, the aggressor reminds him of the rule to never turn your back on the enemy. Yelling, the monster sends the nerd to hell, thrusting the blade towards his chest. In a fraction of a second, the apprentice locks the scumbag's wrist, holding the sharpened toothbrush in the air. Exuding a dark aura, our boy returns the threat, guaranteeing that the only body there will be his rival's. With a sudden pull, the blow fails and throws the former boss off balance for good. Quickly, the student immobilizes the armed hand and slams the big guy onto the cold cement. Surrounded by the other stunned thugs, the declaration of total defeat seals the new command of the room. Pulling the knocked-out man's hair, the MC announces loud and clear that the position of leader now belongs to him. Interrupting the show, the guards bang on the bars, telling everyone to prepare for lockdown. Taking a deep breath, the winner stares at his own hand, still not believing he actually survived the carnage. Dryly, one of the cell's veterans tells the new guy to get out of the way so the guys can make their beds. Right in the middle of the blood on the floor, the oldest prisoner comments that breaking the boss wasn't really necessary. With a cold look, the long-haired guy warns the new king not to get too comfortable, because the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Curious about the place's rules, our boy asks what the fate of a defeated cell leader is. The bitter smile, the ex-boss questions if the new guy really feels any concern for him. With no illusions, the long-haired guy warns that a loser's life is miserable and that the MC will need to fight non-stop from now on. Suddenly, the guard's shout cuts through the air, ordering everyone to turn off the lights and go to sleep. Lying in the dark, the student reflects on the hell that awaits the former leader when he returns from solitary. In his own mind, the rule that brute force is the only way to level up becomes increasingly clear. Promising to honor his departed friend's memory, the kid vows to seek even more power. Aware of his own weaknesses, the final decision is to absorb every drop of knowledge from the lone master. Far away, a mysterious figure observes the darkness through the metal bars. With a slight smile, the platinum-haired man notes that the room's boss really did lose his crown. Crumpling a piece of paper, the villain calls the defeated one useless, not hiding his contempt. Satisfied with the news, the rich kid realizes the mad dog has finally started to show its fangs. On the dirty wall, the iron plaque announces the entrance to the grim South District. Down the corridor, laughter echoes loudly amidst several scattered books and documents. Holding a report, the pink-haired leader admits that the runt has completely surpassed expectations. Amused by the chaos, the pink-haired preppy bets that the scarred leader must be tearing his hair out in rage. Nearby, the rusty sign marks the dangerous territory of the West District. Smiling excitedly, the area's boss celebrates our MC's unexpected victory. Back in the office, a gossipy guard reports the cell leader's fall to the feared East boss. Straight to the point, the untouchable big shot just asks if there were any serious injuries in the confusion. Through the bars, the officer confirms that the new guy came out unscathed, while the former boss ended up destroyed. Thanking him for the information, the peaceful monster dismisses the jailer and wishes him a good night. In the silence of his own room, the big guy predicts that the prison situation has just gotten very complicated. The next morning, the entire mess hall stops and stares at the student walking with his food tray. Noticing the change in atmosphere, our MC understands that stealing a boss's crown demands much more respect from the scum. Suddenly, a friendly voice calls the kid's name, breaking the tension at the table. Flashing a wide smile, the subject introduces himself as the supreme boss of the West District. Confused, the nerd asks if a rival can walk freely in someone else's territory, but the man in the suit guarantees he has a free pass. Short and to the point, our boy says he has no reason to chat with people of that level. Without losing his composure, the big guy warns that the scarred monster wants revenge and offers protection in exchange for an alliance. With his guard up, our MC demands to know the details of this sudden offer. Cold and calculating, the boss proposes turning the kid into a private spy in exchange for total security. Full of himself, the leader claims that holding back the prison's rabid dogs is a very easy task for him. Without hesitation, the student rejects the proposal on the spot and goes back to eating calmly. Shocked by the audacity, the boss questions if the runt really thinks he can take on an entire gang alone. With sharp logic, our boy deduces that the rich guy only sought out a marked target because he has no real allies. Hitting a nerve, the nerd throws it in his face that he would end up gone long before the big shot could help. Annoyed by the rejection, the man in the suit gets up from the table and tells the trash to fend for himself. From behind, the thugs gossip, stunned by the new guy's nerve in refusing a direct request from the top brass. Far from the table, a disguised goon receives the order to inform the pink boss about the deal's refusal. Back in his cell, our MC wonders why he's attracting so much attention just for defeating a room boss. In the corridors, the thugs continue to comment on how the crybaby defied all the deadly bets. In the scum's mind, the rise of a piece of trash in the hierarchy is an impossible and unforgivable event. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls the kid's name in the middle of the empty corridor. Turning his head slowly, the boy comes face to face with two enormous subjects blocking the way. In the MC's mind, the dangerous figures of the bosses echo like a constant warning of danger. With a violent impact, the kid is slammed against the corridor's metal lockers. Pinned against the wall, the student hears his own name come from the mouth of a terrifying figure. With a maniacal smile, the platinum-haired subject announces that he has finally found his prey. Trying to stay calm, our boy asks what the problem is this time. Yelling, the goon tells the trash to show respect for the powerful boss of the North District. Shocked by the revelation, the nerd wonders if this is another trap from the scared monster. Straight to the point, the platinum-haired guy explains that the defeated cell leader was one of his best dogs. In a mocking tone, the boss doubts the runt has the guts to pick a fight with the elite. Without getting his own hands dirty, the villain orders his goons to give the new guy a very warm welcome. Quickly, a punch flies through the air and hits our MC square in the face. Right after, a brutal kick sinks into the boy's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Completely cornered, the kid receives a rain of blows without being able to raise his guard. But two brutes, the victim suffers merciless knee strikes straight to the chest. Lying on the dirty, bloody asphalt, the student hears the coward's victorious laughter. Looking down, the platinum-haired leader asks how it feels to be crushed by mere pawns. Pulling the defeated one's hair, the man in the suit throws it in his face that the former cell leader was just the weakest trash in the gang. Thinking he's the boss, the psycho claims to be generous but swears to never forgive anyone who tarnishes his reputation. With a perverse smile, the villain decrees that the massacre is just fair payment for the shame the kid caused. Turning his back, the boss tells his goons to have fun with the punching bag. Beaten to a pulp, our MC recognizes that the power gap between him and the elite is still gigantic. The harsh reality hits hard, showing that one-on-one training is useless in a street brawl. After the storm, the cell door opens, revealing the hostile environment of the dorm. Dragging his feet, the injured nerd enters the room, under the crooked stares of the scum. In the back of the room, the former boss with his arm in a cast glares at the new guy with pure hatred. Huddled in the corner with a blanket, the student just tries to disappear into the shadows. In his mind, the decision is not to provoke the injured rival to avoid further bruising the brute's pride. All of a sudden, the big guy in the cast screams our boy's inmate number, telling him to get up right now. Full of attitude, the ex-leader announces he wants to take a leak and tells the kid to serve as a human step stool again. Tired of the humiliation, our MC launches a kick straight to the freeloader's face, asking who he thinks he is. Enraged by the new guy's rebellion, the goon throws it in his face that he's nothing but rejected trash. Facing the threat, our boy stares down his opponent and hears more insults. Laughing like a psycho, the freeloader tells the nerd to keep his balance and threatens to off him if he backs down. Losing his patience, our MC screams at the top of his lungs for the charade to end right now. With a violent shove, the student pushes the group away, demanding that everyone mind their own business in there. Arguing the old rules, the long-haired guy says the injured man has already tormented the cell enough. Beating his chest, the new boss decrees that he's the one who sets the rules now and forbids any kind of humiliation. With a dark look, the final order challenges anyone who has a problem to try and take the crown by force. Shrugging, the long-haired thug grumbles that this whole mess is a load of crap. Suddenly, the former leader with the cast roars our MC's name and charges. Completely indignant, the defeated man refuses any pity and says he'd rather perish than be defended by his enemy. Blinded by pride, the ex-boss attacks desperately, swearing he'll have the last laugh in this story. Quickly, the cell's coward takes the opportunity and states that torture is allowed since the victim accepts it. Rubbing his face, the nerd realizes that the mentality of this scum is completely sick. With a thunderous punch to the wall, the kid vents his frustration, asking the reason for so much useless cruelty. Taking a deep breath, our boy explains that he just wants to destroy the rotten rules and improve everyone's life. With another furious punch, he yells, outraged by the gang's blind ignorance. Soon after, the scene changes to the infirmary, and the door opens, revealing the exhausted student. Seeking support, the kid calls the doctor's name in the middle of the silence. Turning her back, the woman comments that the master had to leave and notices the fury on the recruit's face. Leaning on the punching bag, the student sighs heavily before venting about the chaos in the dorm. Very frustrated, he confesses he doesn't understand why they reject peace, which would be good for everyone. Getting real, the doctor acts that kindness sounds like an insult to the only wild instinct the scum knows. With a firm hand on the boy's shoulder, the doctor decrees that the only way to change the prison is by defeating the bosses. Consumed by determination, the MC promises to train 1,000 times harder and laments the teacher's absence. Curious, the woman asks what the day's lesson was, and hears that the mission was to learn how to fight multiple enemies. Flashing a smile, the doctor says the secret is to simply run to make the rival's guard drop. In a supersonic advance, the woman simulates a lethal attack straight to the student's vital point. Completely shocked, the nerd analyzes the perfect movement, focused on a single, deadly blow. In a cold sweat, it dawns on him that the doctor also hides terrifying skills. Retracting her arm quickly, the boy hears the reminder that this place only has dangerous people. Putting away the towel, the mysterious woman confirms she's not an ordinary doctor and ends the subject. Without wasting time, the doctor announces that the daily work is about to begin, and tardiness is not forgiven. With a gentle smile, the farewell serves as encouragement for the new cell leader to hang in there. Soon, the scene cuts to a broom scrubbing the prison floor hard. Observing from above, the narrative reveals that the heavy tasks are done in groups by those who share the same room. Based on performance and obedience, a point system is marked on each prisoner's file. By accumulating enough points, the ultimate prize is getting a rare visit from family on the outside. But the distribution of these slave tasks is in the dirty hands of the boss's trusted goons. In that specific area, the absolute command of orders belongs to the platinum-haired psycho from the North District. Straight to the point, the guard warns our boy an individual failure will punish the entire group. Focused on the mission, the student agrees dryly, promising to keep the team in line. Shouting through the corridors, the authority orders the scum to work hard, no slacking. Sweeping intently, the nerd calculates the points, hoping to see his mother as soon as possible. From behind, a whisper goes around among the thugs, agreeing not to help the new guy in the trap the platinum-haired guy set up. Hiding in the corner, the North boss's trusted thugs prepare the trap with a dirty smile. Suspecting nothing, our MC approaches, asking for a disinfecting tray to finish the job. Full of cynicism, the big guy hands over the equipment, warning that the metal is boiling at 200 degrees. Maintaining his posture, the student grabs the metal cart to transport the heavy load. Suddenly, the squeak of a stuck wheel echoes loudly, revealing the first flaw of the trap. Forcing the weight forward, the kid realizes the cart is completely stuck. Laughing at the situation, the enemy says there's no replacement and tells the trash to carry the boiling tray by hand. Trying to work around it, the student asks if he can use the cart of the guy next to him. With pure mockery, the other thug refuses to help, claiming his equipment is already full. Pushing him to the limit, the scum calls the nerd a wimp for being afraid to burn his little hands. Gritting his teeth, our boy immediately figures out that this whole charade was set up to screw with his points. Faking panic, one of the accomplices starts yelling, accusing the new guy of ruining the group's work. Making a huge scene, the liar screams for help, swearing the mad dog is attacking everyone. Quickly, a crowd of goons surrounds the victim, demanding respect in the platinum-haired boss's territory. Surrounded on all sides, the kid breaks into a cold sweat, desperately looking for a single guard in the hall. Shattering his hopes, the brute informs him that the guards are out on break and the carnage is cleared for takeoff. Swallowing hard, our MC realizes the platinum-haired guy's trap, knowing he doesn't have the strength to take down the whole horde. With a violent shove, the aggressor forces the recruit to accept his fate of torture. Pressing the target's head against the steam machine, the coward threatens to cook his brain if there's any resistance. Yelling, the gang tells the trash to grab the searing metal before he becomes a live barbecue. With his skin sizzling on the iron, the victim walks stumbling while hearing taunts to be careful. Throwing the tray at its destination, our boy completes the hellish job, earning a cynical compliment from the supervisor. Nearby, a cellmate notices in shock the raw, bleeding flesh on the new guy's hands. Using his colleague for support, permission to visit the infirmary is urgently granted. Pulling the injured man by the arm, the roommate quickens his pace through the empty corridors. On high alert, the student notices that the path is completely wrong and demands an explanation. With a malevolent smile, the traitor swears the detour is just a very special alternative treatment. Revealing his true colors, the lackey confesses it was all a direct order from the platinum-haired boss and tells the nerd to give up. In the darkness, the ex-leader in the cast questions if all this cruelty isn't crossing the line. Immediately, the long thug threatens the defeated man, asking if he wants to become barbecue too for disagreeing with the elite. Focused on the cold panel, the cruel warning echoes, telling the trash to stop with the useless sympathy if he doesn't want to get hurt himself. Out of patience, the goon tells the victim to shut up, warning that no guard steps foot in such a freezing place. Turning the pressure valve, the coward announces that this is a special little gift sent straight from Ishida. Desperate, our MC tries to force the metal lock but is brutally pushed by the brutes. With his skin stuck to the cold metal, the boy's hand slips, unable to close off the lethal gas flow. Consumed by remorse, the student grinds his teeth, admitting he was a complete idiot for trying to help the scum. Realizing the sad reality, he understands that violence is the only language spoken, and power dictates the absolute law. Fallen to his knees on the cold floor, it dawns on him that rejecting this rule means signing his own final notice. In a blind pull of pure fury, the poor guy's skin rips on the iron, splattering blood across the pipes. With a roar of pain escaping his throat, the kid lets out a scream that mixes agony with killer instinct. Blind with rage, he stares down the thugs, asking if after all that effort, they still think their prey will take a beating silently. Blood-soaked fists, the trash promises to play the prison sick game, no matter the cost. In an explosive advance, a swift punch bursts the aggressor's face, sealing the promise to resist until the last breath. Caught completely by surprise, the lackey flies backward, his back hitting the hard cement with a thud. Seething with rage, the group's leader swears to crush the defiant runt right there in front of everyone. Quickly, the doctor's voice flashes in the hero's mind, remembering the insane training about facing multiple opponents. Through the memory, the golden advice tells the fighter to run without looking back in a numerical disadvantage. As bait, our MC lures the hurried opponent and lands a clean blow just as the idiot's guard drops. Soon, the rule of aiming for a vital point echoes, but the enemy monster just smiles, taking the punch well. In a quick spin, the student finishes the move, applying a heavy kick straight to the big guy's chin. Dazed by the impact, the brute stumbles, cursing the trash for his sudden audacity in combat. Suddenly, the guard's whistles rip through the air, ordering the chaos to stop and everyone to get back to work immediately. Threatening to cut their daily points, the authority throws a bucket of cold water on the whole gang's nerves. To hide his hatred, the goon mutters a curse and backs down, knowing that confronting the police is suicide. Casting a deadly glare, the coward swears that the next hunt won't end with so much luck for the failure. Panting, our boy realizes he only escaped becoming mincemeat by a pure miracle of the prison guard. Reflecting on the trap, it's clear that the platinum-haired leader is very cunning, and brute force alone won't be enough against him. With his injured hand throbbing, the kid tries to guess what the elite's next venomous move will be. Suddenly, the manipulative offer from the West District boss surfaces in his mind like a very dangerous whisper. In that dark memory, the mobster's proposal promised absolute protection in exchange for the nerd's complete submission. Completely lost, our MC questions which path to follow to avoid ending up in a box. Cutting to the secret warehouse, the master's voice bellows, demanding the student's leg go much higher in the kick. With no balance, the recruit tries to execute the move and violently kisses the warehouse floor. Noticing the lack of focus, the giant teacher crosses his arms, asking if some new crap has happened. Still on the floor, the trash apologizes, trying to hide the paranoia in his own head. In the poor guy's imagination, the visitor list appears torn, reminding him that his precious points went down the drain. The guard's harsh scolding, denying the visit echoes, shattering any hope of seeing his mother anytime soon. To boost the kid's morale, the legend advises that keeping his head down and working hard is the only route to a reunion. Down, the boy deduces he lost his rights just for being weak, and the giant's response confirms the harsh reality. With a serious look, the hero admits that the student's pitiful state in the last few hours is hard to watch. However, a glimmer of hope appears when the mentor claims the runt possesses an absurd hidden weapon. Cold and direct, the monster reveals that the nerd's blind determination is something simply impossible to break. Comparing the technique to animals, the prophecy guarantees that this relentless will is going to turn the prey into a true, fierce wolf. Promising a reward, the master affirms that all this unjust suffering will be worth it in the end. With this power in hand, the reunion with the most important person in his life will be completely inevitable. With his eyes lit up again, certainty takes over his fragile body, demanding only more and more power. Pounding his sweaty fists, motivation explodes, demanding the torture of training resume at full throttle. Fixing his fighting stance, our boy declares he needs to aim for the top if he wants to dominate this hell. Meanwhile, in the prison corridors, the bald mountain of muscle grumbles about the platinum-haired guy's dirty tricks. Outraged, the villain growls as he remembers the scared boss approved the cowardly strategy without hesitation. Stomping heavily down the corridor, the pervert decides to head straight into the frigid facilities of the freezer room. Totally focused on his own mission, the nerd walks through the area, replaying the golden rule of analyzing the territory well. Dying of rage, the bald coward promises to beat up the first useless person who appears to relieve his stress. Upon spotting our prey, the aggressor flashes a diabolical smile, having found the perfect target for a slaughter. Full of attitude, the bald guy blocks the path and scoffs at the new runt leader's rank. In a deliberate bump, the brute throws his entire weight onto the kid, trying to provoke some fear. Annoyed by the boy's freezing silence, the lackey curses loudly and tries to push the victim a second time. Just mentioning the name of the dam, Ishida, was enough to light the fuse, and a devastating punch shut the bald guy's mouth on the spot. Consumed by blind fury, the thug recovers quickly, shouting that he'll prove his own superiority by crushing that trash. With a colossal impact, the giant's fist hits the student's defense, making the entire structure tremble. Gripping his own guard, the recruit groans, feeling the absurd weight of the enemy's monstrous strength. Instantly, his mind calculates that just taking punches will result in completely shattered bones. Recalling the master's anatomy lessons, his focus locks directly on the disgusting villain's exposed chin. In a courageous advance, our MC's fist flies straight at the target but is intercepted mid-air. Sweating with tension, the rule of never leaving an opening flashes, warning that any counter-attack will be fatal. In a fraction of a second, the damn bald guy responds with a swift cross aimed at the prey's head. By his own mistake, the kid curses as he tries to force his combat stance back into place. Without warning, the brute resorts to a colossal headbutt to the middle of the poor nerd's face. After wiping the blood, the aggressor laughs, thinking the prison's new mad dog is just a joke. Completely changing tactics in a jump, the student throws a low kick, focusing exactly on the target's leg. Collapsing like a rotten tree, the monster's massive body meets the cold cement with a dull thud. With an analytical look, our boy deduces that the base of that mountain of muscle is his Achilles heel. But clicking his tongue, the rival gets up heavily, admitting to himself that he underestimated the trash's strength. Veins popping from pure wrath, murderous rage overflows, demanding the runt be taken out without mercy. In an imminent clash of runaway trains, the two rivals go in a straight-up brawl in the narrow corridor. Aware of the absurd disadvantage, our boy realizes that the number of enemies is a huge problem to solve with his fists. Suddenly, the wide-open freezer door catches his attention, opening a perfect escape route in the corridor. In a desperate sprint, the kid runs for the cold room, with the mountain of muscle right behind him. With a mocking laugh, the aggressor asks if the prey really thought he'd get away that easily. Full of attitude, the bald guy announces he'll play along with the hide and seek game just to slice up his target. As soon as he crosses the door, the coward decrees that the game is deadly and ends the instant the runt is caught. In the middle of the icy fog, the villain calls the kid to the slaughter in a tone of pure sadism. Coming straight from the shadows, a flying kick smashes the brute's face, taking the trash by surprise. Dazed by the impact, the giant bleeds and realizes the situation has just gotten ugly for him. Our MC takes advantage of the opening and pushes the heavy metal door, closing the exit. With a thunderous slam, the lock seals the enemy's fate inside the extreme cold. Pounding on the glass, the monster swears to send the nerd to hell as the thermometer plummets to 150 below zero. On the outside, the other goons only hear the boss's pathetic screams echoing from inside the chamber. Surrounding the winner, the scum demands respect and tells the trash to get out of their territory right now. Just then, a guy with a little mustache appears, mocking and asking if the frozen dogs have managed to thaw out their own pants. Consumed by hatred, the goon screams that his own boss is furious with the platinum-haired guy's schemes behind the gang's back. Without losing his composure, the man in the suit throws the absurd shame of getting beaten badly by a complete runt in their faces. From a distance, our boy understands that the former leader will try to reclaim his throne, and that means more disaster for sure. Fearing punishment, the thugs hurry their steps to avoid being late for the prison's slave labor. In the blink of an eye, a strong bump snaps the nerd out of his thoughts, and someone tells him to get out of the way. Desperate down the corridor, the former room leader runs, sweating cold as if fleeing the devil himself. Pushing and shoving, the ex-boss shoves everyone aside, grumbling that he's still the boss around here. Fallen on the floor, the coward grabs his own head in a panic attack, leaving the MC confused by the scene. Calmly, the peaceful leader of the East explains that the failure took out his frustration on some random goon. Striking up a conversation, the untouchable giant demands an answer about the alliance he offered our boy days ago. Through a memory, the revelation unfolds that the ex-leader beat up the lookout for letting the new guy train in secret. Battered on the floor, the watchman begged the platinum-haired boss for help but was discarded like useless trash. In a grave tone, the big shot states that fear transforms people in that hell when they lose the top of the food chain. Interrupting the gossip, the guards invade the area with batons in hand to end the show. Mercilessly, the police pummel the former leader as he cries, pleading it was all an accident. Without any mercy, the officer tells the team to cuff the scum as quickly as possible. With his hands trembling and covered in blood, the scumbag yells, guaranteeing he can prove his own innocence. Suddenly, the disturbing vision reveals that the psycho tore out his own eye in a fit of desperation. Extending the eyeball in his palm, the psycho babbles to the boss, proving he's now blind and wasn't at fault. Completely disgusted, the guards throw up in the corridor and scream for an ambulance urgently. Enraged by the injustice, our boy questions why the real culprits don't suffer any punishment. Very patiently, the big guy explains that the disgrace of the fall is the real reason everyone there fights for the crown. Pressing the invitation, the mobster reminds the kid of his dream to see his mother and promises a free pass for that on the east side. With his mother's image in his head, the nerd refuses the offer, realizing that depending on others is security with an expiration date. Full of determination, the only way out is to become absurdly strong to guarantee the defense of his own family outside. To complete the nightmare, the trash knows that the scarred monster will never give up on his bloody revenge. Clenching his fists, the student deduces that weakness will only bring more humiliation and suffering in the future. Turning his back, the decision is made to reject a fake peace to seek pure and absolute power. Accepting the rejection, the giant boss warns the recruit to watch out for the mortal fury of the humiliated former leader. Flashing a friendly smile, the mobster leaves the doors of the East Territory open in case the kid changes his mind. The next day, the sun beats down on the yard during the long-awaited free time. Quickly, the guard's voice echoes on the radio, ordering the South District guys to return to their cells immediately. Annoyed by the order, a giant scarred bald man hears his own name with pure boredom. Full of malice, a goon decides it's the perfect time to vent his stress on this Shibahara, the southern boss imprisoned for animal cruelty. Trying to avoid the worst, his partner reminds him that the director just gave the gang a monstrous scolding. Blinded by fury, the bald guy loses his patience, swearing to beat anyone who crosses his path, as long as it's not our MC. In explosive advance, the mountain of muscle attacks, promising to crush everyone to prove who's boss through pure brute force.